Chapter 255, Team in the Logistics Building. The logistics building was extremely popular today, especially in the transaction area and the mission hall. Many people were gathered there, and the atmosphere was lively. What day is it today? Why are there so many people? Many seniors were stunned when they came to the logistics building. Look at the date. The school should be organizing missions for the freshmen. This is a project our school has every year. I see. Thinking back on it, it was quite memorable. Haha, at that time, there was a pretty lady in our class who didn't treat the first mission seriously. She got killed by a 2-star soldier-level murderer. What a pity. Many classmates wanted to chase her. It was the first mission. Many freshmen overestimate themselves and choose a difficult mission. It's normal to die. The older students looked at the freshmen as they discussed the missions excitedly. Some felt emotional, while others just shook their heads. They could predict the expressions on their faces after they came back from their missions. There were 4 ladies and 4 men on Wang Ting's team. Although the gender was evenly distributed, their ability wasn't. Many of them just became martial warriors recently and hadn't completely grasped the usage of force. Naturally, Wang Ting became the leader. At this moment, Wang Ting had brought them to the mission receiving area. The few of them gathered around a machine. Wang Ting had received a mission before, so he knew the procedure. He took out his student card and swiped it on the machine. Beep, student card. Then, he scrolled through the missions while explaining to the other students, as you see, the missions are given by different organizations. They are split into military missions, police missions, City Protection Bureau missions, the Xingwu Continent missions, school missions. There are Xingwu Continent missions. Some students were shocked. Why? Do you want to take the Xingwu Continent mission? Wang Tung smiled and asked. I heard that the scenery in the Xingwu Continent is breathtaking. I really want to take a look, one of the ladies in the team, Yuan Jing, said longingly. When you go there, you will realize that everything is the same, Wang Tung said. Leader, you sound as if you have been to the Xingwu Continent, Yuan Jing asked curiously. The other students also looked at Wang Ting. Yes. Wang Ting nodded. Don't think of the Xingwu Continent as some kind of utopia. When you go there for missions, you might never want to head there again. I heard that the Xingwu Continent is very dangerous, and the people there aren't very friendly. They kind of dislike us, a male student called Li Wendong said. Oh, it looks like you have some understanding of the place, Wang Ting said in surprise. My dad went there before. He told me the stories after he came back. Li Wendong smiled and replied. Was this what the Xingwu Continent was really like? Yuan Jing and the others felt that their current perception of the Xingwu Continent had been overturned. They weren't stupid. They knew that Wang Ting and Li Wendong wouldn't lie to them. They started contemplating which mission to choose seriously. All right, let's not discuss this today. See if there's any mission you want to take. You can tell me. Wang Ting pulled the topic back and started scrolling the missions on the screen. The missions of the Xingwu Continent and the military are the most difficult. The Police and City Protection Bureau come after them, and the school missions are relatively easier. If you have no confidence, you can choose the school missions, Wang Ting yawned and said indifferently. He was bored. He couldn't be too harsh when doing missions with these newbies. He would rather do missions alone. He could earn more school credits that way. However, he knew that this was the school's arrangement. There were times when he could do things on his own, for instance, skipping lessons and observing other faculty's lessons. But, he couldn't act on his whims for group events like this. The students looked at the missions for a long time, but they couldn't decide. Leader, you have experience. Why don't you choose? A male student called Hao Zhengxing said. Should I? Wang Ting glanced at everyone. When he noticed that all of them seemed to trust him, he instantly felt a massive burden on his shoulder. Leader, you can choose. You are so powerful. You will definitely be able to lead us to beat the other teams, Yuan Jing said. You are making me stressed. Wang Ting shook his head helplessly. However, he didn't reject them. Since you asked me to choose, I will choose. He scanned the students' faces and smiled. Leading the warriors, right? I'm not afraid. I will lead them to victory. Wang Teng started to get serious. He skipped the school missions and opened the Police and City Protection Bureau pages. He looked through all the missions. Suddenly, he was shocked. His gaze landed on a police mission. Mission description: 1 month ago, many foreign martial warriors sneaked into Donghai to assassinate the CEO of Longhai Corporation. When they got defeated, they hid in Donghai and have managed to remain hidden from the forces until now. Requirements: you are recommended to take this mission as a team. There has to be at least 1 2-star soldier level and 3 1-star soldier level martial warriors. You should be specialized in investigation and tracking. Reward: 200 school credits. Wang Teng remembered that the last time he came to receive his mission, he had seen a mission about protecting the eldest daughter of the CEO of the Longhai Corporation. This was the follow-up of the previous mission. Specialize in investigation and tracking. Interesting. Wang Ting touched his chin and pondered for a moment. What do you think of this mission? They looked at the mission description in front of them and felt speechless. This mission was very difficult. Leader, isn't this mission too difficult? Li Wendong asked awkwardly. Wang Ting smiled and asked, are you afraid? A little. They are foreign martial warriors, and they even tried to assassinate the CEO of Longhai Corporation. They aren't normal bandits, Li Wendong admitted openly. If you trust me, let's choose this mission. I might not be able to promise much, but I can assure you that your lives won't be in danger. As for the 200 points, you will get your share depending on your performance, Wang Ting said directly. The others were still in a dilemma when they heard his reply. However, they were slightly moved by his speech. The harder the mission, the faster we will progress. We are lucky that we are on the same team as Wang Teng. This allows us to take missions with greater difficulty. We mustn't give up this advantage easily. Why don't we take the bet? No one expected the shy-looking Yuan Jing to say these things. The other young men were startled and a little embarrassed. They gritted their teeth and said, since Yuan Jing has already said this, we can't back down. We will choose this mission. The remaining 3 ladies hesitated for some time, but they didn't raise any objections. Good. You are very decisive, Wang Teng praised them. This was a test for his teammates. If they rejected him, he would do the missions step by step and use only a little effort. If they choose to believe him, he didn't mind having a good game with them. Wang Teng accepted the mission as a team and brought everyone to the transaction area on the 2nd floor. Your school credits might not be enough, so you can combine your credits to buy some Dan and healing medicine. As for weapons and battle uniforms, I feel that it isn't worth it to rent them. I have more school credits. You can borrow from me and return them after the mission. Wang Ting wasn't a selfless person. He just didn't want to waste too much time on these small matters. His teammates were like swords coming out of their sheaths. He would be able to yield twice the result with half the effort only after he sharpened their blades. His teammates were elated. They didn't pretend to be polite and chose their weapons and battle uniforms. They could just return the credits to Wang Ting after they completed their mission. The next day, early in the morning, the students dressed up in full attire with their backpacks and their weapons. They gathered in the stadium. The instructors were already waiting for them. There were buses parked beside them to take them to the mission locations. These buses were prepared by the school. They were used for external missions. Wang Teng and his teammates also arrived at the stadium. As soon as they stepped inside, they caught everyone's attention. F***K, their clothes are so eye-catching. Wang Teng and his teammates were wearing extremely conspicuous black trench coats with a hoodie. There were fiery red cloud patterns that looked like flames at the edge of the trench coat. It was extremely outstanding. The instructors felt the corners of their lips twitching as they stared at them speechlessly. Wang Ting ignored their gazes, though. But Yuan Jing and the others felt awkward. They wanted to dig a hole and bury themselves. Every class had 3 to 4 instructors. After the students arrived, one instructor would lead one team and get on the bus. The teams of students left the school one by one. The buses were heading to different destinations in Donghai. Chapter 256, I'm China's best team leader. In the car, Liu Feng's lips twitched as he looked at Wang Ting and his teammates' attires. His head was hurting. Why do you have to wear this? He was the instructor leading Wang Ting's team. Liu Feng was stronger compared to the other instructors. He was at the peak of 5-star soldier level. You could tell that the school regarded Wang Ting with high importance. Of course, what would they think if they knew that Wang Ting's ability was almost on par with Liu Feng? Yuan Jing and the others looked at each other helplessly. They glanced at Wang Ting from the corner of their eyes and noticed that he was resting with closed eyes. He displayed no intention of explaining himself, so she had to step up. Our leader says that wearing the same uniform will help with team cohesion. Also, if we have to execute our mission at night, black attire will help us to hide better. Others won't notice us easily. In that case, there's no need for you to choose this red cloud pattern, right? It's so eye-catching. How is it concealing? Yuan Jing and the others were at a loss for words. Wang Ting also felt a little awkward when he heard this. He didn't know why he chose this red cloud pattern either in the heat of the moment. After choosing, he regretted it at once. However, as a new leader, he couldn't go back on his decision. He had to mean what he said. Even if it was a pile of shit, he would force his teammates to eat it. I'm China's best team leader. I'm the best team leader in China. Cough, cough. Wang Ting coughed awkwardly when he noticed that his teammates couldn't answer the question. He explained with a stern expression, this was the only style available. Then, he immediately changed the topic. Instructor, let's discuss the mission. Liu Feng glanced at Wang Ting curiously. He recalled the glorious achievements of this gifted student, but he meant the notorious misdeeds and felt that his excuse wasn't credible. However, he needed to give some face to a gifted student. Besides, he was the leader of the team, he should have some dignity. He shouldn't expose him in front of his teammates. Hence, he accepted the reason and asked, which mission did you choose? Yuan Jing and the others described the mission briefly. Liu Feng frowned immediately. Nonsense. He was scolding Wang Ting. It wasn't difficult to know that Wang Ting was the one who convinced them to choose this mission. Do you know how dangerous this mission is? Most of you just became 1-star soldier-level martial warriors a few days ago. You might not be able to handle this mission even after this 1-month mission. Why are you thinking of running before you even learn to walk? Are you looking for death? Wang Ting, they chose you as their leader, but is this how you take responsibility? Liu Feng's expression was grave. He reprimanded Wang Ting and shouted at Hao Zhangye, who was driving. Turn around. Go back and choose your mission again. Don't. Hao Zhangye, keep driving. Wang Ting stopped him hurriedly. Instructor, at least listen to me before objecting. Hao Zhangye looked at Liu Feng. He was in a pickle. All right, share your thoughts with me. If you can't convince me, you have to go back and choose your mission again. Missions are to train your actual combat abilities, not for you to seek death, Liu Feng said. Based on the mission's description, the foreign martial warriors that sneaked into Donghai to assassinate the CEO of Longhai Corporation are at most 2-star soldier level. They specialize in assassinations, so they might not be powerful if we face them head-on. It's a piece of cake for me to kill a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. I can take care of my teammates without any concern, Wang Ting said. You know that they are assassins. You might be able to tackle them, but what about the others? They lack experience in fighting with martial warriors, much less experienced assassins. There is a great disparity. You might be able to take care of 1 or 2 of them, but are you able to take care of all 7? Liu Feng shook his head. I will not do anything that I'm not confident in, Wang Ting said with a calm expression. You. Liu Feng glared at him furiously when he saw Wang Ting acting stubborn. No way. I don't agree. Instructor, you came with us to prevent any accidents and to protect the students. But, you can't interfere with the students' decisions. Wang Ting shook his head nonchalantly. He knew that Liu Feng meant well for them, so he softened his tone and said, why don't you ask them and see if they want to choose another mission? If the majority doesn't want to do this mission, we can turn around. Liu Feng turned to look at Yuan Jing and the others helplessly. What do you say? Instructor, since we came, it means that we've considered it carefully, Yuan Jing said. Liu Feng threw a meaningful glance at her. This lady didn't have a strong presence in class, so he didn't expect her to be firm and decisive. He looked at the others. The other students nodded too. No one wanted to change missions. Look, this is their own choice. If they hadn't agreed, I wouldn't have chosen this mission, Wang Ting said. Sigh. Liu Feng let out a long breath. He had seen too many deaths, but the students didn't want to listen to him. What could he do? Forget it. You can do what you want. I just hope that you won't regret it later. Don't worry. There will be no deaths in my team. Wang Ting sounded as though he was making a statement. Also, don't forget that they are martial warriors. Liu Feng looked at him intently. He didn't say anything, though. The Longhai Corporation was in western Donghai City. Thus, this case was handled by the West Area Police Bureau. Half an hour later, they arrived at the West Area Police Station. The police station was a villa. It wasn't that high, and the blue and white walls looked plain and simple. Wang Ting looked at the place and felt emotional for some reason. He had come here after killing for the first time. At that time, he was still a martial disciple. He met 5 bandits and was caught in a life-or-death situation. Hence, he couldn't control his strength. The scene was extremely gruesome. He shook his head and smiled when he recalled the incident back then. He wasn't a newbie anymore. Yuan Jing and the others followed Wang Ting down the bus. They took out their martial warrior credentials and registered at the guard post, asking the guard to report their arrival. Liu Feng stayed on the bus. The mission had already started, so he wouldn't interfere. Whether it was communication or actual combat, the students had to rely on themselves. A few minutes later, a staff member from the police station ran out. Are you the students from Huanghai Military Academy who accepted the mission? Yes, we accepted the mission and came to see if you have any clues. Wang Ting nodded. All right. Follow me. The staff led them in, and they arrived at an office. There were many policemen from the police station working inside. The staff shouted in a corner, Leader, the martial warriors from Huanghai Military Academy are here. The moment he finished speaking, everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Wang Ting and his classmates. Chapter 257, Protectiveness. So they are the students from Huanghai Military Academy. I heard that all of them are martial warriors. Our team leader is only an advanced stage martial disciple. As expected of students from a top university. That's right, that's right. Discussions rang out in the office. The policemen couldn't help but feel envious when they saw Wang Ting and his team. Ordinary people wouldn't see martial warriors often in their lives. Moreover, every single martial warrior represented a form of privilege. Thus, many people were willing to risk everything to become martial warriors. At this moment, a figure stood up for the corner and looked at the students. The person was stunned for a moment. It's you. Yang Zhenchao was surprised. He looked at Wang Ting as if he couldn't recognize him. Captain Yang, long time no see. Wang Ting smiled brightly. Good riddance, you have already become a martial warrior and entered Huanghai Military Academy. Yang Zhenchao was flabbergasted. He walked over and sized up Wang Ting uncontrollably as though he wanted to see something from him. The other policemen in the office were also shocked. Our captain seems to know the leader of the students. Our captain is amazing. He actually knows a martial warrior from Huanghai Military Academy. Idiot, did you listen to them properly? Captain knew him in the past. All right, continue with your work. Why are you gossiping? Yang Zhenchao waved his hand and said, Captain Yang, we want to understand the Longhai Corporation case. The more detailed it is, the better, Wang Ting said directly. Wait for a moment. Let me check. Yang Zhenchao went to his computer and fiddled with it for a while. He said, the other party is from White Eagle Nation. Currently, we only know that there is 1 2-star soldier-level martial warrior and 2 1-star soldier-level martial warriors. They might have other companions hiding. As Yang Zhenchao introduced the case, the students gradually understood the conditions of the foreign martial warriors. This included their appearance, figure, weapons, battle techniques, and many other things. All the methods they used were recorded in detail in the police database. They were compiled into a case, so everything could be seen at one glance. There were videos of their fights too. These were all recorded by the internal surveillance cameras of the Longhai Corporation. They were kept in the police station as evidence. After looking at the videos, Yuan Jing commented, "These foreign martial warriors are bold. How dare they create trouble in our country so blatantly? This is nothing. As long as they are given enough money, they will do anything." Yang Zhenchao shook his head and said, "Do you have any leads on their hiding place?" Wang Teng asked. "These foreign martial warriors are elite assassins. They have powerful counter-reconnaissance ability and know how to disguise themselves. We barely managed to locate the 3 most possible areas for their hiding spot after transferring and screening through all the surveillance images in the entire Donghai city. Take a look." Yang Zhenchao opened the videos and showed them to Wang Teng and his teammates. These people look very similar to the 3 foreign martial warriors, whether it's their figures or other traits. It had to be said that the modern surveillance system was very powerful, especially in a big city. It almost covered all the corners of the city. Normal culprits wouldn't be able to escape from these watchful eyes. However, these foreign martial warriors weren't normal people. Did they leave any items behind? Wang Teng asked. Yes. Yang Zhenchao nodded. He didn't know what Wang Teng wanted to do, but he always cooperated well when there was a case. He called a policewoman over. "Little Lu, bring the items the martial warriors left behind." The policewoman called Little Lu was a pretty lady. She was like a blooming flower among the bunch of men in the police station. However, there were no expressions on her face. She was an ice flower. Are pretty ladies also cold? Wang Teng couldn't help but wonder. Xia Lu glanced at Wang Teng before turning around to get the items. Why did she look at me with that strange gaze? Wang Teng felt speechless. "Ha ha ha, you are so handsome, and you're a martial warrior to boot. Who won't take a second look at you?" Yang Zhenchao teased him. "What do you think? Our little Lu is the police belle in our West Area police station. Do you fancy her?" He had his plans all laid out. Wang Teng was an extremely young martial warrior and a student of the Huanghai Military Academy. He had a bright future ahead. If they got married, Wang Teng would be part of their Westside police station. In the future, they would get many benefits. However, before Wang Teng could open his mouth, the young ladies on his team couldn't hold back their emotions. This was outrageous. Wang Teng is an outstanding resource. We haven't even laid our hands on him. Why should we give him to you? The ladies turned into protective hens and said, "Captain Yang, you don't have to worry about our leader's marriage. He's very popular in school. Many ladies are already chasing him." That's right. They are all martial warriors, and some of them are as beautiful as the lady just now. If they learn that you're trying to snatch their prey, they might come and destroy your office one day. Yang Zhenchao immediately felt awkward. He laughed to clear his embarrassment and said, "Haha, I'm kidding, kidding." Wang Teng sighed emotionally. As expected, someone as outstanding as him was like a gem in sand. He would attract people wherever he went. He couldn't keep a low profile even if he wanted to. Were there really so many females who liked him? Why didn't he know anything? Wang Teng wanted to ask Yuan Jing and the ladies about the female students who were as beautiful as the lady police. A few. It felt exciting just thinking about it. Cough, keep calm, keep calm. When Xia Lu came back, she realized that the atmosphere was a little awkward. The ladies were staring at her with vigilance and hostility in their eyes. She felt puzzled. She just went out for a while. Why were the ladies treating her like an enemy? What happened? Take a look. They left these rune bullets. This broken sword is one of their weapons too. They threw it away because it was damaged, Yang Zhenchao said. Wang Teng nodded. He activated his spiritual sight secretly and scanned the items. He could see residual force on them. Everyone's force was different. When force entered one's body, it would get stained by the martial warrior's aura. These auras were the most obvious clues. Wang Teng was able to see the difference with his spiritual sight talent. All right. Wang Ting took one look before nodding. That's it. Yang Zhenchao asked curiously. You couldn't blame him for feeling shocked. Wang Ting only took one glance at the weapons. He didn't even pick them up. What could he notice just by seeing them? Oh, I have my own methods. Wang Ting didn't explain further, kicking up a cloud of dust. Xia Lu muttered. Wang Ting pretended that he didn't hear her. He said, Captain Yang, if there's nothing else, we will leave first. Let me send a couple of my guys to help you. It will make things easier. Yang Zhenchao said, Little Lu, Little Yang. Captain, let me go with Xia Lu. A tall and muscular policeman stood up. Chapter 258, The Cute and Mesmerizing Little Oriole, Hu Bing. Yang Zhenchao hesitated when he saw the policeman who stood up. Captain, I've been following this case since the start. No one knows it better than me, Hu Bing said. Yang Zhenchao stopped pondering. He nodded and said, All right, you will go with Little Lu. He gave some orders to Hu Bing and Xia Lu. Before they left, Yang Zhenchao said to Wang Teng and his team, When you're executing the mission, don't implicate ordinary people and try not to have fights in public areas. It will have adverse effects and will damage the order of the city. If something goes wrong, you will have to bear legal responsibility. You should already know this, but I just want to remind you. Wang Teng and his classmates had indeed learned it in school. This might be the martial arts era, but there was still a higher percentage of ordinary people. The martial warriors' world and the ordinary world were separated. If the martial warriors caused trouble all the time, based on their powerful abilities, it would cause social panic easily. Wang Teng and his team walked out of the police station and boarded their vehicle. They were heading to the first location where traces of the foreign martial warriors were found. Hu Bing and Xia Lu drove a normal sedan and followed behind them. Martial warriors are seriously special. Even the captain has to be polite with them. Hu Bing drove the car and glanced at Xia Lu from the corner of his eyes. He continued talking, however, I heard that this is their first time handling a mission, so they might be inexperienced. In the past, there were failures too. The martial warriors from the White Eagle Nation aren't easy to deal with. We couldn't find them even after searching for so long. The students that were supposed to protect the CEO of Longhai Corporation couldn't handle them either. I heard that there were even casualties. Do you think these students from Huanghai can do it? Xia Lu just ignored him, staring at Wang Ting's car in front without blinking. When he saw her lack of response, anger flashed past Hu Bing's eyes. On the bus, Wang Ting said, You have heard what Captain Yang said just now. There are 3 possible locations. We will investigate them one by one. Leader, these martial warriors from White Eagle Nation are all crafty and sly. They are good at hiding. Even if we know what area they are in, we can't search every single building and every single unit, right? Li Wendong said. Don't worry, I have my way. You just have to adjust your condition to prepare for any sudden battles, Wang Teng replied. The students felt bewildered. They didn't know what Wang Ting's plan was. Even Liu Feng, who was resting with closed eyes at the side, opened his eyes and looked at Wang Ting in surprise. When Wang Teng and his team were on the move, the other teams were executing their missions too. All of them gave their best and went all out, whether it was for their school credits or their pride. Time passed slowly. Very soon, 2 days had gone by. Some teams had already completed the simpler missions and earned school credits. The instructors kept in contact with one another and knew everyone's situation. At this moment, Wang Teng was eating dinner. Liu Feng felt confused when he looked at the calm Wang Teng. He couldn't help but ask, 6 teams have completed their missions successfully and earned their school credits. Chen Yang from our class earned 30 school credits. They are at the top of the rank now. Although it's not much compared to your 200 school credits, they have already earned it. On the other hand, you are just wasting your time here. Are you sure you don't want to give up this mission? Wang Teng and his team had eliminated 2 potential hiding spots in these 2 days. However, they didn't find the real hiding spot of the foreign martial warriors yet. Hao Zhangxing and the others were a little agitated. They looked at Wang Ting unconsciously after hearing Liu Feng's words. Leader, Why worry? We haven't investigated the third location, right? If we can't find them there, it means that the clues provided by the police were wrong, Wang Ting said. Hu Bing and Xia Lu from the police were present too. Xia Lu frowned and said, "You might have missed some areas. You are just loitering aimlessly every day. You didn't look for them carefully. It's no wonder you can't find them," Hu Bing said with disdain. "You have no right to comment on how I do things." Wang Ting raised his head and stared at Hu Bing. "You failed at your job. Why can't I comment?" Hu Bing's heart shuddered when he saw Wang Ting's gaze. However, he remembered that Xia Lu was just beside him, so he glared back at Wang Ting. Xia Lu was sitting between the two of them and blocked them. "This is a mission, not a game. Please be more serious. You don't understand." Wang Ting shook his head helplessly. Liu Feng watched them from the side without speaking. He was curious where Wang Ting's confidence came from, but he didn't mind giving him some stimulation. A genius could only grow after suffering some setbacks. Xia Lu and Hu Bing stopped talking. They were waiting to see how Wang Ting would end the mission after today. Night dawned. Wang Ting suddenly heard the unique roars of sports cars in the distance. There were more than just a few of them. As a local and a second rich generation, he was familiar with this area. At night, there weren't many cars on a street some distance away from here. Hence, it became the playground for wealthy young people who had nothing to do. Entertainment racing. He was part of this race in his past life. Suddenly, Wang Ting had an idea. He turned and spoke to Xia Lu, "Check if the daughter of the CEO comes here often to race." "Hey, what's with your tone? We are not your subordinates," Hu Bing said unhappily. "Hurry." Wang Ting glanced at him expressionlessly before shouting at Xia Lu sternly. Xia Lu thought of something too. She disregarded Wang Ting's tone and called the police station immediately. Within 3 minutes, the police station replied. She nodded gravely and said, "You're right. She comes often, and she's here today. Everyone, it's time to stretch our muscles." Wang Ting stood up and smiled at his teammates. They were all shocked. Were they finally going to act after waiting for so long? This was the critical moment. Although they felt a little excited, they were mostly anxious. "You found them?" Liu Feng looked at Wang Ting in amazement. "It's just a possibility. They might not come." "No, they are already on their way," Wang Ting said. "How do you know?" Everyone looked at Wang Ting curiously. Wang Ting didn't reply to them. Instead, he said, "Let's go. There aren't many people on the main road at night. We can catch the foreign martial warriors there." This was a cluster of abandoned warehouses. Past midnight, a few hundred people were gathered outside the warehouse. The place was brightly lit up, and music was blasting loudly. The atmosphere was vivacious. All kinds of cheers and screams shot up to the night sky. Many sports cars were parked outside the warehouse. Beautiful maidens in short miniskirts and singlets weaved through the crowd. Their hairs were dyed in all kinds of colors, and all of them had ear holes. They looked like a bunch of bad youngsters clustering and screaming. A few black shadows were sitting or standing on the top of a warehouse. They were carrying their weapons on their backs. Ordinary people wouldn't be able to detect them with their eyesight. They looked at the party below and sighed. "Their lives are crazy. They have nothing better to do," one of them shook his head and said. The moonlight shone on them and revealed their faces. It was Wang Ting and his group. Wang Ting was carrying the weapon carrier casket, his back facing his teammates. His expression was a little awkward. After all, he used to be like this. "I didn't know that the daughter of the CEO loved to race. Doesn't she know that this is dangerous?" Hao Zhengxing asked. "People like her love to break the rules and look for excitement in their lives," Li Wendong replied. "It's hard to understand their thoughts." Yuan Jing and the other ladies shook their heads. Wang Ting felt ashamed when he remembered that he used to live this life. When he looked at the frivolous and cool-looking people below now, he felt a strong rich second-generation aura from them. Out of sight, out of mind. Wang Ting closed his eyes and changed his vision. He looked up at the sky. A crow was flying through the night sky. Its blood-red eyes were focused on a few figures who were moving quickly through the streets. This crow was Wang Ting's spiritual pet. Wang Ting had been raising his crow carefully during this period. He wasn't stingy with star beast meat, so the little crow grew quickly. Little White could fly, and it had reached the 1-star level now. Wang Ting seemed to be loitering around aimlessly for the past few days, but he was changing his vision with Little White to investigate this area. Just now, he finally found the foreign martial warriors. Coincidentally, they were planning to kill the eldest daughter of the CEO of Longhai Corporation tonight, just as he had expected. Fortunately, he discovered it in time. If not, the difficulty of the mission would have increased tremendously. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Tonight, Wang Teng and his team were cute and mesmerizing little orioles. Boom, boom, boom. Wang Teng opened his eyes. Fierce roars came from down below. The race was about to start. From afar, he saw a sexy maiden walking to the starting line. She took off her undergarment and threw it into the air. The atmosphere at the scene reached its peak. The cheers sounded continuous. The sports cars roared past the maiden. You could only see black lines flashing past her. The strong wind blew her miniskirt up. Hao Zhangxing and the other young men had never seen anything like this before. Their eyes turned wide open. However, the glaring light was like a mosaic. They couldn't see anything. Wang Teng couldn't help but exclaim softly. When the sports cars started their engines, multiple attribute bubbles had dropped. Wang Ting activated his spiritual power and pulled the bubbles over. It was a long distance away. He picked them up. Driving skill *10, driving skill *8, driving skill *15. This is unexpected. Wang Ting smiled as he looked at his attributes panel. Driving skill 178 500, specialized. I'm already at the specialized stage? He was slightly startled. Then, he understood. That's true. I'm good at driving anyway. This wasn't the time to think about this, though. He changed his view to the crow's vision and predicted where the foreign martial warriors were hiding. Then, he said to his teammates, let's go to the mountain and stop them. After he finished speaking, he shrunk into the darkness and charged towards the mountain in the distance. His teammates followed behind hurriedly. Their instructor tailed them closely. Honestly, he was very worried about this mission. Chapter 259, Horacio. 3 black figures wearing nightclothes were hiding beside the main road. They stared at the pitch-black turn in front of them. Tonight is our last chance. If we fail, we might not be able to leave China. If we are lucky enough to escape, we will still have to face death because we failed our mission. A tall foreign lady with golden hair and blue eyes opened her mouth and said to the other 2 men. Understood. Her companions looked grave. They fully understood the severe consequences, so they nodded in reply. There are 3 cars. Kill everyone besides the daughter of Long Hai, the golden-haired lady, Hill, said. I will catch Long Yarrow personally. None of them noticed a pitch-black crow cleaning its feathers on the crown of a tree in the forest behind them. It was staring at them with its blood-red eyes. Suddenly, the roars of engines were heard on the quiet road. It came closer and closer. They are here. The golden-haired lady fixed her gaze on the road. Not long after, a couple of lights appeared at the turn. The sound of tires scratching the ground and the burnt smell of friction assaulted their senses. A Porsche was drifting over. 2 other racing cars followed closely behind it. There was 1 Audi and 1 Ferrari, both high-class sports cars. Their sleek bodies and enchanting engine roars were proof that they cost a fortune. What a pity. Attack. A cold shout resounded. 3 figures shot out simultaneously. The 2 male martial warriors flew towards the Porsche and the Audi at the back. Accompanied with force glows, a powerful attack slammed into the 2 sports cars. Boom. The expensive sports cars were crushed under the powerful attack as if they were made of paper. The strong impact caused them to fly out of the road. The cars flipped in the air. The guardrails on the side of the road were destroyed, and the 2 racing cars fell down with their owners. They disappeared into the darkness in a blink of an eye. At the same time, the golden-haired lady leaped up and landed heavily on the top of the red Ferrari. Her body was engulfed in a force glow. The top of the red Ferrari deformed, as though there was a huge weight on it. The body of the car sank abruptly. All 4 tires exploded. The car frame rubbed against the ground, and sparks flew everywhere. They were especially bright in the pitch-black night. The entire car shot out of the racing track. There were 2 people sitting in the car, and a young man was in the driving seat. When he saw the surprise attack, his expression changed. However, he reacted quickly. He unbuckled his seat belt and did a series of actions. Unfortunately, the young lady on the passenger's seat wasn't as calm. She shrieked in fear at the top of her lungs. The high-pitched scream almost ruptured the young man's eardrums. Just as this red Ferrari was about to suffer the same fate as the other 2 cars, the golden-haired lady on top jumped down and kicked the car forcefully. The red Ferrari skidded and slammed into the forest at the side. The racing car was already useless after the huge blow. It stopped after the collision, and black smoke started coming out of the car. The golden-haired lady and the 2 foreign male martial warriors ran towards the racing car. Suddenly, the door closer to the forest side was kicked open with a bang. It flew out for a distance as a black figure darted out of the car. The young man didn't hesitate. There was no room for hesitation here. He carried the young lady on his back and escaped into the forest. Escaping? The golden-haired lady sneered. To her, the youngster's actions were futile. She tapped her feet on the ground, scattered dust everywhere. She turned into lingering shadows. Her speed was astonishing. She caught up with the 2 people in front within a few breaths. The battle blade in her hand formed a blade glow in the air as she slashed at the young man. Run! The young man's expression changed slightly. While shouting, he had already thrown the lady on his back out. Then, he turned around and faced the sharp blade glow head-on. A cold light flashed past. A dagger had blocked the battle blade. Huh! 2-star soldier level. The golden-haired lady squinted slightly. She said to her companions, "Leave this person to me. Barnard, Marjorie, retreat immediately after you catch Long Yarrow. I will find you soon." The 2 male foreign martial warriors didn't waste any time. They nodded and chased after Long Yarrow. The young man wanted to stop them, but he was held back by the golden-haired lady. "Your opponent is me." The young man was anxious. He knew that he wouldn't be able to escape until he killed this lady. He made his decision swiftly and attacked on his own, dashing towards the golden-haired lady. His attacks were ferocious and vicious. He wanted to end this battle quickly. The golden-haired lady had the same thought. There was more than 1 martial warrior beside Long Yarrow. The others would definitely rush over after hearing what happened. The longer she dragged this fight, the more disadvantageous it would be. Their blades collided in the air, and their attacks were as fast as lightning. When their force smashed into each other, they set off small explosions continuously. The powerful impact caused huge damages. A huge patch of the forest was destroyed by them in a blink of an eye. On the other side, the 2 foreign martial warriors caught up with Long Yarrow easily with their speed. Although she practiced martial arts and was an advanced stage martial disciple, she was spoiled and lazy. There was no way she could outrun the 2 martial warriors. "Miss Long, please come with us." Barnard and Marjorie blocked Long Yarrow from the front and back. They closed in on her step by step. "Don't come over." "Who sent you? How much did they give you?" "I will double it." Long Yarrow shouted fiercely. However, deep down, she was afraid. Chapter 260, Die from Anger. Horatio. Long Yarrow was stunned. She only regained her senses after a long time. She shouted angrily, "Horatio, your head." However, when she heard that Wang Ting was a student from Huanghai Military Academy and had accepted a mission to capture the 3 foreign martial warriors, she heaved a sigh of relief. Finally saved. She knew a thing or two about Huanghai Military Academy. There was no doubt about the ability of the students from the school. Capturing the 3 martial warriors shouldn't be a problem for them. Long Yarrow turned to look at the fight some distance away. Then, she glanced at Wang Ting, who was relaxing at the side. She couldn't help but ask, "Why aren't you helping them?" "If they need my help all the time, they are useless," Wang Ting replied. "You don't look old, yet you speak like an old man." Long Yarrow rolled her eyes. Wang Ting glared at her. Are you calling me an old man? Can you speak properly? Oh right, there's another student from Donghai University who came to protect me because of his mission. He's fighting with one of the foreign martial warriors. The lady is very strong. Help him quickly. Long Yarrow suddenly remembered the young man and said to Wang Teng worriedly. No, Wang Teng replied. His teammates were fighting. Despite having more people, the two foreign martial warriors were experienced in actual combat. They were at a stalemate for the moment. Why are you like this? Long Yarrow stomped her feet furiously. Don't worry, he won't die, Wang Teng replied calmly as he glanced in that direction. Through his little crow's vision, he knew that the battle there hadn't ended. The young man could last for some time. Hao Zhengxing, did you not eat your dinner? You are an Earth Force martial warrior. Slam him with your force. Can you exert some strength? Li Wendong, your skin is so delicate. Don't charge recklessly. Use your speed and cover up for your teammates. Yuan Jing, unleash your major skill and give the bearded man a big one. As for the others, stop slacking. There are so many of you. If everyone just attacked together even once, they would have enough suffering. Wang Ting looked at the gang fight and sighed angrily. His teammates heard his guidance and followed the instructions. The tide turned instantly. This fellow. Long Yarrow was amazed. She could tell that after Wang Ting spoke, the two foreign martial warriors started to back down. Boom. At this moment, Hao Zhengxing found a loophole, sending a foreign martial warrior into the air. A few of the seven split up and continued attacking the injured martial warrior. The foreign martial warrior could only scream in agony before he got killed. The other martial warrior was stimulated when he saw his comrade getting killed. He revealed his ferocity and started fighting with his life on the line. He alone forced Hao Zhengxing and the others to retreat continuously. There are 7 of you. Why are you afraid of him? As a martial warrior, you shouldn't be afraid of getting hurt. You will heal completely after eating a dan. Don't be afraid. Charge. Wang Ting opened his mouth again. He expected better from them. Panic was taboo for newbies. Once you panic, your opponent would grab the chance to destroy you one by one. Fortunately, Wang Teng was at the side, so everyone could remain calm. They regained their composure after hearing his instructions. The young men gritted their teeth and powered up their attacks. In a while, they started dominating the foreign martial warrior. The other party had to step back uncontrollably. This step was the distance between heaven and hell. The fear of the other students subsided when they saw this scene. They knew that the other party was just a human too. Wang Ting was right. They had 7 of them. Why should they be afraid of him? Their morale was given a boost. They were already close to apprehending the culprit. The foreign martial warrior knew that he couldn't win, so he turned around to escape. Unfortunately, Hao Zhengxing and the others weren't one to be trifled with. They didn't give him a chance at all. As soon as they saw him retreat, they surrounded him and stabbed him with their blades and swords. They killed him. This was their first battle, and their opponent was a real martial warrior, one experienced in actual combat. The process wasn't smooth, but the result was good. For a moment, they had more confidence. When the fight finished, they were all out of breath, as they had used up much of their force. They looked at the 2 martial warriors' corpses but didn't feel disgusted. They had seen many scenes like this after practicing martial arts. Hence, their reactions weren't that exaggerated. Long Yarrow just frowned a little. Let's go. There's another 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. Let's take care of her quickly and go home to sleep. Wang Teng yawned as he gathered everyone over. Long Yarrow felt speechless when she saw his relaxed manner. When Wang Teng and his teammates arrived, the young man in charge of protecting Long Yarrow was hit by the golden-haired lady's blade. He was slammed onto the ground. He clutched the blade mark on his chest and vomited a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, he was wearing a battle uniform, so the attack only caused him a serious injury. He wasn't dead. We seem to be a little late. I'm sorry, Wang Teng said hurriedly. Shameless. Long Yarrow couldn't sense any sincerity from his expression. This man was despicable. When the golden-haired lady saw the unscathed Long Yarrow, as well as Wang Ting and his team, she instantly figured out what happened. Barnard and Marjorie must have failed. This situation was awful for her. F***K. She cursed uncontrollably. You speak English? I can too. Wang Ting finally knew why he needed to learn English. He immediately replied, F***ku. Fut. Long Yarrow and the others burst out laughing. The golden-haired lady choked with anger. She glared at Wang Ting indignantly and said, You are really mischievous. Hey, your Chinese is not bad, golden hair. Wang Ting raised his eyebrows. I will give you two choices. Do you want to fight with one or many? Take your pick. Are you stupid? We outnumber her, so we should attack together, Long Yarrow said agitatedly. She looked at Wang Ting as though he was an idiot. You don't understand. We must act gentlemanly in front of an international friend. Wang Ting waved his hand and said. Not bad. I will choose to fight with one, the golden-haired lady replied. A glint flashed in her eyes. Okay. Wang Ting nodded. He then waved his hand and said, Go. Hao Zhongxing and the others charged forward. What the F***K? The golden-haired lady was dumbstruck. She suspected that she didn't learn her Chinese properly and misunderstood Wang Ting's words. However, she reacted quickly and realized that she had been tricked. She shouted in anger, I said fight with one. That's right. All of us will fight with one of you, Wang Ting replied. Fut, shameless. The golden-haired lady panted heavily. Her chest was hurting due to anger. Chinese is profound. Learn and watch, Wang Ting said. Long Yarrow's expression turned strange. She suddenly felt a little sad for this golden-haired lady. It must be painful to meet this kind of opponent. But, when she saw the lady's big chest, she looked at her own small one and decided that she should just die from anger. Chapter 261, Young Miss Long, do you have to bow to me? The golden-haired lady was so furious that her chest hurt. She vented all her anger on Hao Zhongxing and the others. However, she realized that the other party wasn't that strong despite their numbers. Their actual combat skill was even a little tender. The golden-haired lady looked at their young faces and understood the reason. A cold glint flashed past her eyes. She targeted one person and tossed her battle blade violently at him. Her 2-star soldier level ability was fully released. The students had gotten used to cooperating with one another after the battle just now. Thus, when they saw their companion getting attacked, and it was a fierce attack too, they quickly rushed over to block the attack together. Boom. 3 people blocked the attack together, but they still took a few steps back because of her immense strength. Their faces turned pale. Very powerful. The golden-haired lady was much more powerful than them. The students were flabbergasted. When they looked at the golden-haired lady, who was launching her second attack, fear started creeping up their hearts. Ah! At this moment, Hao Zhongxing slammed his weapon on the golden-haired lady's head when he saw his classmates in danger. Get off! The golden-haired lady remained expressionless. She swept her leg as though there were eyes behind her and kicked Hao Zhongxing a few meters away. Blood seeped out from the corner of his lips. Hey, your classmates can't resist much longer. Long Yarrow's expression changed. She didn't expect 7 students from Huanghai Military Academy to lose to the other party. She said to Wang Ting anxiously, hurry up and help them. If you are left alone, you won't be able to win. Just wait and see, Wang Ting said. The student from Donghai University, who was in charge of protecting Long Yarrow, had used his healing medicine by now. His face was still pale as he staggered towards Wang Ting and Long Yarrow. He said to Wang Ting, you must be freshmen, right? The other party is a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. You can't beat her. Hurry up and bring young Miss Long away. Huh? You guys are freshmen? Long Yarrow's expression changed entirely when she heard his words. She thought that Wang Ting was so confident, but they were just a bunch of newbies. No wonder they had a difficult time fighting against the 2 male foreign martial warriors. It wasn't because they were strong. It was because the students were weak. You tricked me. Let's go, let's go. It'll be too late if you don't leave now. Young Miss Long turned pale again and urged Wang Ting to leave quickly. Wang Teng glanced at her with his hands behind his back. He said calmly, "If you're afraid, you can leave first." "Are you stupid? Why are you staying if you can't beat her?" Long Yarrow said in a panic. "Do you want me to abandon my companions?" Wang Teng asked. "Well, we can find other people to help us." Long Yarrow also felt a little guilty. She randomly found a forced reason for herself. "All right, you can leave if you want to leave." Wang Teng waved his hand and ignored her. He focused on the battle. It was indeed a little too much for his classmates to fight against a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. They had no chance at all. They might be able to win if they gained more experience, but now, I will not care about you anymore. Long Yarrow turned around and said to the young man from Donghai University, "Let's go. We will find reinforcements." The young man glanced at Wang Teng. That guy's expression was composed all this while. He didn't seem worried about the situation. Could it be that he could really beat the golden-haired lady? The young man immediately denied this thought after it popped up. If he was a freshman, he had no chance against a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. Retreat with your classmates. It's not worth it if you lose your life because of an impulsive decision. He still reminded Wang Ting in the end. Then, he left with Long Yarrow without any more delays and disappeared into the dark. Liu Feng glanced at the battle with the golden-haired lady from his hiding spot. He frowned uncontrollably. What is this brat doing? If he doesn't act, his classmates will be in danger. Especially when he saw how Zhangxing and the others retreating under the golden-haired lady's attack, he felt worried for them. They were already injured. He prepared himself and got ready to help them at any moment. Almost there. At this moment, Wang Teng finally acted. He had watched them for a long time and finally saw their limit. It would now be easier for him to plan their missions in the future. The golden-haired lady threw Hao Zhangxing and the others back and shot in front of Yuan Jing. A hideous smile appeared at the edge of her lips. She slashed her blade horizontally at Yuan Jing's neck. They were both ladies, but she was still so ruthless. What a cold-hearted person. Yuan Jing's face turned pale. There was despair in her eyes. Oh no. Hao Zhangxing and the others panicked. Go away. Boom. An angry shout and the explosion of force erupted beside Yuan Jing. At the same time, the golden-haired lady's expression changed. She kept her battle blade hurriedly and wanted to block the sudden attack. However, the frightening force exploded and threw her off her feet. Splurt. The golden-haired lady slammed heavily on a tree. She vomited blood, and her face turned white instantly. She was dumbstruck as she stared at Wang Ting in fear. This shameless young man who didn't move was actually so strong. She couldn't even handle one blow from him. Despair surged into her heart. Wang Ting's gaze landed on the attribute bubbles that had dropped beside the golden-haired lady. They were floating in the air. He picked them up. He kept them for now and didn't look at them carefully. Wang Ting then turned and looked at Yuan Jing. Are you all right? I got a fright. Yuan Jing patted her small chest. She was tearing from the scene just now. Leader, why did you wait so long before acting? I almost went to see God. The other 3 young ladies came to comfort her immediately. Haha, don't worry. With me around, you will be fine. You have to trust your leader. Wang Teng laughed awkwardly. The students finally felt relief. They were exhausted, and there were many injuries on their bodies. They gritted their teeth in pain. Leader, where is young Miss Long? Hao Zhangxing suddenly asked. She ran away in fright when she noticed that you couldn't beat the golden-haired lady, Wang Teng replied. Everyone, this is too much. We came to save her, but she abandoned us and ran away. That's right. What kind of person is she? If I knew this was going to happen, I would have allowed her to get caught and let her suffer a little before saving her. The students were filled with righteous indignation. They scolded Long Yarrow for being ungrateful. As they spoke, hurried footsteps were heard in the forest. Young Miss Long Yarrow came back. However, before she reached them, she tripped and fell to the ground. Hey, young Miss Long, why did you come back? Did you find your conscience? There's no need to bow to me, Wang Ting scoffed as he looked at Long Yarrow, who was below him. Fut. When Long Yarrow looked up, her face was covered with mud. She spat out a few blades of grass and said furiously, "I'm not bowing to you." Then, she remembered something and turned fearful. Someone is coming after us. Hien couldn't resist a single blow from this person. I don't know if he's dead. Chapter 262, You're Nothing. Tap, tap, tap. The instant Long Yarrow finished speaking, light footsteps came from the forest. A foreign muscular man with brown hair walked out of the dark. When he appeared in front of Wang Teng, he was holding the young man called Hien Bang. They couldn't tell whether Hien was alive or dead. He was thrown to the ground casually like a rag doll. The man glanced at Wang Teng and his teammates. Then, his gaze landed on the golden-haired lady. He said calmly, "Hill, you failed. This brat is quite powerful." The golden-haired lady's expression changed. She vomited another mouth of blood as she spoke with difficulty. "Don't find excuses for your uselessness," the brown-haired man said in disdain. He then turned to look at Wang Ting. When Long Yarrow saw his gaze, she hid behind Wang Ting like a mouse that had met a cat. Hao Zhangxing and the others felt their heads turning numb. Goosebumps appeared on their skin. "This is killing intent." Liu Feng's expression changed slightly. How many people had this brown-haired man killed to give off this frightening killing intent? Retreat to the side. Wang Ting smiled as he spoke to Hao Zhangxing and his teammates. "Leader, this person is difficult to handle. If I'm right, he has killing intent," Li Wendong said gravely. I know," Wang Ting nodded and replied. "Leader, let's run if we can't win." "It's not embarrassing," Hao Zhangxing shouted. Wang Ting was speechless. "Go away. You don't understand your leader well enough." "All right, let me widen your horizons today." Hao Zhangxing and the others were hiding far away. They gathered and started discussing in low voices. "I think that our leader was acting." "I think so too. Can he win by acting? Why don't we run away?" Long Yarrow felt anxious. She coerced the others to escape again. "You can run away if you want. We are not ungrateful people." The students looked down on her. Long Yarrow felt awkward. This time, she was alone, so she didn't dare run. She said in embarrassment, "Never mind, I will stay with you guys." The brown-haired man didn't waste any time. He glared at Wang Ting like a predator hunting its prey. His expression turned sinister. Boom! Force exploded below his feet, and his body disappeared on the spot. He appeared on top of Wang Ting the next instant. His weapon was a huge battle blade. The handle was very long, and he was grabbing it with both hands. He slashed it furiously on Wang Ting's head. Clang! A battle sword popped out of the weapon carrier casket behind Wang Ting's back. He held it in his hand and pushed it up. When the two weapons collided, sparks flew out, along with a metallic clang. Boom! Then, the eruption of force echoed through the air. The frightening impact knocked down all the trees around them. Hao Zhangxing and the other students retreated continuously. 3-star soldier level. Wang Ting knew the muscular man's level. A smile appeared at the corner of his lips. On the other hand, the brown-haired muscular man was left shocked. He looked into Wang Ting's eyes and felt a sharper killing intent surging towards him. How's this possible? He couldn't remain calm anymore. His expression changed, and he shouted in disbelief. In front of this killing intent, his aura was nothing. He felt like a child acting fierce in front of an adult. "You're nothing." Wang Ting mouthed these words. At the same time, a strong fiery red glow engulfed his sword. It stung the muscular man's eyes, and he started tearing uncontrollably. Damn it! The brown-haired muscular man felt fear creeping throughout his body. His eyes widened in disbelief as he started retreating furiously. It's too late now. Wang Ting swung his sword. The fiery red sword glow instantly enveloped the brown-haired muscular man. Boom! A violent explosion occurred. A moment later, the airwaves subsided and the dust dispersed. The brown-haired muscular man was lying in a deep pit. There were burnt marks all around the hole. Actually, flames were still burning around it. The brown-haired man was in a sorry state. There was a sword mark on his chest, and it had taken his life away. The golden-haired lady looked at Wang Teng in fear. She felt like she was seeing a monster. He became stronger. Liu Feng was startled and shook his head with a bitter smile. No wonder Wang Teng was so confident. With his ability, everything would be fine, even without him. Wang Teng slowly placed his battle sword back into the weapon carrier casket. He saw the attribute bubbles floating above the man. He used his spiritual power to pull them over and pick them up. Then, he turned to look at his teammates. He noticed that they were staring at him with gaping jaws. Back to earth. Wang Ting shouted before continuing, "Bring the corpses of those fellows and the golden-haired lady. Let's go back for supper." Oh. Hao Zhengxing and the others nodded. Liu Feng felt speechless when he heard this. This brat was still thinking of supper. Wang Ting informed Xia Lu and asked them to let the police clear up the scene. The people that gathered for the night race were dispersed. Everything that was supposed to be controlled was controlled, and the implications were reduced to the minimum. Xia Lu and Hu Bing also arrived at the scene. They looked at the damage around them in astonishment. Hu Bing's face turned pale. He remembered how he had argued with Wang Ting earlier. He swallowed his saliva, his throat feeling a little dry. Xia Lu couldn't help but remember Wang Ting's indifferent face. Her gaze was a little complex. Wang Ting handed over his mission in the West Area Police Station and gained 200 school credits. Yang Zhenchao sent them off personally. "Old brother Wang, thank you so much." As expected of the elites from Huanghai Military Academy. "We didn't manage to catch them after putting in so much effort, yet you did it in 3 days, Yang Zhenchao said in bewilderment. "Captain Yang, you're too polite. We might have chances to cooperate again in the future. We will leave first. My teammates are tired. We need rest," Wang Tang replied. "All right, take care." Yang Zhenchao waved at them. Wang Teng left the police station. They had worked the entire night, so they were famished. When they returned to the university town, they ordered a table of barbecued meat from a roadside stall. Everyone asked for a beer, even the ladies. Barbecued meat with beer. Match made in heaven. Before the barbecued meat was served, they cheered and gulped down the beer. "Amazing." Hao Zhengxing shouted. "Why are you shouting?" Wang Teng kicked him. Hao Zhengxing didn't mind. Instead, he let out a chuckle. After some time, the barbecued meat was finally served. Wang Ting took a stick of barbecued lamb meat and asked, "What do you think of the mission tonight?" "It was difficult, too difficult. It was also very dangerous," Hao Zhengxing replied while eating. "That's right. I felt that I was going to die," Yuan Jing said. "It's good that you realize this. I was afraid that you might have gotten arrogant after killing 2 martial warriors," Wang Ting said. "Come on, we understand our own strength. Without your guidance, we would not have been able to kill the 2 martial warriors," Hao Zhengxing shook his head and replied. Chapter 263, I want to be a good person, but the system doesn't allow me to. The few of them ate their barbecue and exchanged viewpoints on their takebacks for this mission. This was the first time they had fought with martial warriors, so there was definitely much to learn and improve. Hao Zhengxing and the others had to get it out of their chest, so this interaction helped them to relieve some stress. They also had a deeper understanding of this mission. It was beneficial for everyone. Half an hour later, everyone was satisfied. They went back to school. Most of them were injured, so they returned to rest. They agreed to go on another mission one day later. Wang Teng went back to his dormitory alone. Once there was no one around, the little crow flew down. He raised his arm to let it perch. He smiled and said, "Thank you for your hard work." "Caw." The little crow cawed in reply. "Here, this is your reward." Wang Teng took out a huge piece of star beast meat from his space ring and threw it at the little crow. The little crow spread its wings and flew into the air. It bit the star beast meat with its beak and found a place to feed itself. Wang Teng took a bath and dried his hair. He then went back to his room and pulled out the attributes panel. Earth force * 25 water force * 20 metal force * 42 assassination * 8 earth force * 70 assassination * 5-inch her? Wang Teng looked at the attributes and exclaimed softly. Something weird seemed to have sneaked into his attributes panel. Assassination. He had received 13 points of assassination in total. Assassination, 13,100, foundation. He closed his eyes to feel the skill. A memory appeared in the corner of his mind. It was regarding the assassination skill. There was much content for assassination, including assassination techniques that could catch people off guard as well as 1,000 ways to poison your target. A skilled assassin was able to kill his target secretly. This was the world-class assassination skill. Of course, the assassination skill Wang Ting received was just the foundation. If he wanted to reach top class, he had to pick up more attributes. He could become as powerful as he wanted when he had enough attributes. Why do I always receive such weird skills? Wang Ting touched his chin. He was secretly elated, but he felt sad too. I want to be a good person, but the system doesn't allow me to. One day later, Wang Ting's team gathered again. They went to the logistics building to get their next mission. It was worth mentioning that they had received an additional 100 school credits because the police confirmed that there was a 3-star soldier-level martial warrior. That meant that they got 300 school credits in total as their reward. Wang Teng was the one who chose the mission this time again. He didn't refuse his teammates' offer. They had limited time, yet they had spent 4 days completing one mission. Although this mission was worth 4 to 5 missions, Wang Teng never compared his team with the other teams. If they wanted to gain the first spot, they must reach their limits. Hence, they shouldn't waste any time and complete as many missions as possible. If this wasn't his teammates' first mission, he wouldn't have let them rest. They had only suffered some light injuries here and there. Why did they need to rest? They should continue working hard. Let's choose this. Wang Teng picked a police mission and accepted it as a team. When his team members read the description, they felt depressed. Mission description: help the police kill a wind element 2-star soldier-level martial warrior, Lei Hui. He was once a policeman and stole an item from the police station. After he got discovered, he killed his comrade and escaped. Specialized in blade skill and grappling. Very powerful. Requirements: at least 5 1-star soldier-level martial warriors and 1 or 2 2-star soldier-level martial warriors. Reward: 400 school credits. This mission was more difficult than the one before. The previous mission almost took half of their lives. Now, they had to do it again. They cried bitterly in their hearts. Alright, stop looking as though you are going to die. The harder the mission is, the faster you improve, Wang Teng said indifferently. Leader, talk is cheap, Hao Zhengxing said with a forced smile. My talk is expensive, Wang Teng nodded. Everyone, this mission was released by the South Area Police Station. Hence, Wang Teng and his team came to the South Area Police Station to take over the mission. The person attending to them was a middle-aged man in uniform. He was the section chief of the South Area Police Station. Everyone, Lei Hui stole the wind element scripture that we gained during a mission. It was an unexpected reward for us. He has wind talent, but he never had the money to buy any scriptures. That is why he took the risk to steal it. Unfortunately, when one of our staff discovered him, he killed his comrade mercilessly, disregarding their relationship. He did it to steal a scripture. Wang Ting was shocked. Aren't there many ways to get scriptures now? I know that normal people can sign contracts with elite families or corporations. If there was a choice, who wants to place their future in other people's hands? Chief Shin said in a meaningful tone. Once you sign the contract, it won't be easy to regain your freedom. Lei Hui isn't willing to listen to others. He's always looking for a better way. If no one discovered him, he would have succeeded. Wang Teng nodded to express his understanding. He could only say that Lei Hui was a little unlucky. With his alertness and intellect, there was a high chance he would be safe after stealing what was entrusted to him. In the future, he could just find a reason, like he met an old grandpa on the road who decided to give him a secret scripture because he saw potential in him. Since there was no evidence, no one could catch him. However, someone saw him. Alright, back to the topic. We have been looking for him for half a year, but He's always able to evade our investigation because he knows our method of doing things. He ran to other provinces but came back to Donghai recently for some reason. A witness saw him and reported to us. That's how we know his location. Chief Shin smiled bitterly. That bastard is hiding in Chungjeong village. Based on the information we received from the other provincial police, Lei Hui reached the 2-star soldier level in half a year. His improvement is amazing. He's a mutated element martial warrior, so it's harder to deal with him. Chief Shin looked at Wang Teng and his team suspiciously. He knew that this team was made of freshmen through the mission system. The mission had its requirements, so he wondered if these newbies hit them. Chief Shin, don't worry. Since we accepted this mission, we are confident. We won't joke with our lives. Wang Teng could tell what he was thinking. Also, the system approved this mission. This proves that we have the ability. Chief Shin nodded. He didn't say anything. He had already said what he should. They had accepted the mission, so they were responsible for the consequences. Chapter 264. Open the door. Community Welfare Chungjeong Village. Wang Teng and his team came directly to the village after leaving the police station. It was past 9 a.m., and many people had gone out for work. The rent for some apartments in a big city like Donghai was very expensive. Many working adults couldn't afford the rent, so they chose to stay in places like Chungjeong Village. The environment wasn't good, but it was cheap. Life was tough. Not everyone was as fortunate as Wang Teng. Even if they scrimped and saved, the amount saved might not be enough for Wang Teng and his friends to eat a single meal in the second-floor cafeteria. This was how cruel life was. There were many small shops in the village. A few elderlies were sitting in the shops, and very few people went in to buy things. The houses around them were pretty low. Sagging electric wires and clothes hangers with clothes placed over them could be seen everywhere. Wang Teng and his team stood on the roof of a building. They were watching the shorter building in front of them. Their instructor, Liu Feng, was present too. However, he didn't appear in front of them. He was always hiding during their mission. He wouldn't act unless an accident happened to the students. This is it. Yuan Jing looked at the exact location provided by the police. The building Lei Hui lived in was near the edge of the village. It was dilapidated, so not many people lived here. Are we going to act now? Hao Zhangxing asked. Yes. There's no one around. So we won't attract much attention. We will send someone to knock on the door. The others will hide around the building. I will look after the surroundings to prevent ordinary civilians from coming. Wang Teng nodded and replied. What reason do we use when we knock on his door? Li Wendong asked. Community welfare. Wang Teng said. Everyone. They didn't waste any time after Wang Teng made the arrangements. They started their plan instantly. However, they met a problem. Who will knock on the door? They looked at one another and couldn't make a decision. The person who knocked on the door had to bear some risk. Rock, paper, scissors. Wang Teng interrupted them. Everyone looked at him helplessly. However, they still accepted his suggestion in the end. After all, they didn't have a better option. Thus, these university students started playing a childish game like rock, paper, scissors, rock, paper, scissors. Hao Zhangxing took a deep breath and looked constipated. He lost. This was the real start. The other students hid around the building while Hao Zhangxing strode in front of the door. Knock, knock, knock. Open the door, community welfare. Wang Ting covered his face. This idiot. Bang. The next moment, the door was kicked open, and a figure darted out, accompanied with a cold glint. It stabbed straight at Hao Zhangxing, who was outside the door. Damn it. Leader, you tricked me. Hao Zhangxing was stunned. A shrill scream escaped his mouth. Fortunately, he had tensed up his muscles when he knocked on the door to get ready to escape at any moment. The person in the house was a real 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. He was no match for him. Thus, when he saw a figure charging out of the room, he shifted to the side without thinking. But the other party reacted quickly too. The blade turned and aimed at Hao Zhenxing's back. However, a strange thing happened. His attack wasn't able to hurt Hao Zhenxing. He seemed to have struck an invisible object. Small fry. Wang Ting sat on the edge of the roof and looked at the battle below. He pouted. A wisp of spiritual power was entangled around his hand. The figure couldn't figure out what was happening. His expression changed. The other students at the side finally reacted. They started attacking the man. Also, everyone finally saw that this was the culprit, Lei Hui. Lei Hui didn't stop after his failed attack. He evaded everyone's advances and ran towards the alley outside. "Oh no, don't let him run away," Hao Zhenxing crawled up from the ground as he shouted. He thought that he had evaded his opponent's attack. He didn't know how close he was to the gates of hell. Thus, when he saw the person running away, he chased after him immediately. "Be careful." His teammates reminded him uncontrollably as they followed in a rush. Wang Ting also got up. He tapped his feet lightly on the roof and shot forward. He kept close behind his teammates. Hao Zhenxing caught up with Lei Hui and whacked his rod on him. Lei Hui stopped for a split second and moved to the side. The students in hiding came out and surrounded him. "Lei Hui, surrender. There's nowhere you can escape," Hao Zhenxing shouted. "Newbies like you are not going to catch me," Lei Hui said in contempt. He could tell that these people didn't have much actual combat experience. They were very tender. He scanned his environment. Despite knowing this place very well, he needed time to calculate the best escape route. Although the youngsters in front of him weren't strong, he didn't plan to waste time with them. Since they found him, it meant that the police knew his hiding spot. He should escape as soon as possible. He didn't want to wait for more people to come and catch him. "Don't chat with him. Attack," Li Wendong shouted. He saw through Lei Hui's intention. They weren't stupid. They launched their attacks and started targeting Lei Hui with all their weapons. "It looks like I won't be able to leave without killing a few of you." A sharp gaze appeared in Lei Hui's eyes. Within half a year, he had turned from a policeman to a fugitive. He had experienced many things, cultivating a ruthless aura around him. He was a real desperado now. The blade in his hand started giving off a green glow. The blade glow pushed back Hao Zhenxing's long rod and came for Li Wendong's throat. Li Wendong raised his blade to block the attack. It was a close call. However, the strong impact still threw him back. 2-star soldier level versus 1-star soldier level. He was at a disadvantage in terms of ability, so he couldn't win a head-on collision. Lei Hui wanted to take Li Wendong's life, but the others had already arrived. Lei Hui could only turn around and block their attacks. He swept his blade horizontally and forced everyone back. Then, he targeted Yuan Jing. A cold glint flashed in his eyes, and he flew up. He swung his blade at Yuan Jing. But, his body suddenly stopped in mid-air. It's that strange force again. Lei Hui was dumbstruck. Yuan Jing wasn't a brainless lady. After all, she had managed to enter Huanghai. She grabbed the chance and instilled force on her sword. She targeted Lei Hui's heart. Lei Hui's force exploded from his body as he forcefully shifted a small distance away. Slash. Yuan Jing's battle sword stabbed into his chest. However, it didn't pierce his heart. He managed to evade it with a hair's breadth. Lei Hui was a vicious person. No, he was a lichen. He gave a sinister smile and grabbed Yuan Jing's battle sword with his hand. As force enveloped his palm, he spurted a mouth of blood on Yuan Jing's face. Yuan Jing's expression changed. She instinctively abandoned her sword and ran back. A hole had appeared in the encirclement. Lei Hui threw a ray of blade glow behind him and dashed towards the gap. However, the moment he took a few steps, he tripped and fell face down on the ground. Slash. The battle sword that was still stuck in his chest penetrated his chest and appeared on his back. Wang Ting. Chapter 265. It's a lichen. Lei Hui, Hao Zhenxing and the others were shocked. What was going on? They thought that Lei Hui was going to run away, but he fell instead. They were baffled. Indeed, they were baffled. They didn't know how Lei Hui fell. At this moment, Wang Teng jumped down lightly and landed in front of everyone. They finally got enlightened. "Leader, did you do something just now?" Hao Zhangxing asked in surprise. "Why do you think he fell?" Wang Teng glared at him angrily. Everyone was shocked. How strong was Wang Ting? He was able to kill a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior like Lei Hui so easily. Also, they didn't even see how Wang Teng did it. This seemed a little frightening. "Thank you for saving me," Yuan Jing walked over and said softly. "You're welcome." Wang Teng knew what she was referring to. He didn't deny it either. He nodded and said, "You need to be decisive during a life-or-death battle. When your weapon falls into your enemy's hand, abandon it if necessary. Don't hesitate. Spare some energy so that you can retreat when you need to." "I understand." Yuan Jing accepted Wang Teng's guidance humbly. She could still feel the lingering fear in her heart. She would remember this lesson for a long time. "Leader, you tricked me." Hao Zhangxing looked at Wang Ting with hidden bitterness as he complained. "What are you saying? I don't even know what was going to happen. It has nothing to do with me." Wang Ting shook his head and replied. "Fart." The others burst out laughing. "Hao Zhangxing, don't blame the leader. You're just stupid," Li Wendong laughed as he said. "Go away. I'm not stupid." Hao Zhangxing was furious. Everyone relaxed after they completed their mission. They had gotten more familiar with one another recently, so they started teasing each other. Suddenly, the lady in their team called Huang Ping screamed in fear. "He's not dead." Almost at the same instant, Wang Teng felt Lei Hui's corpse moving slightly. He frowned as he looked at Lei Hui. The others all turned to look at Lei Hui when they heard Huang Ping's shout. "He's not dead." Yuan Jing looked at the body that was twitching and shouted in astonishment, "Who cares? He doesn't look like a huge threat. Let's stab him again and send him to hell," Hao Zhangxing replied casually. He was about to go forward and stab the body. "Don't move," Wang Teng shouted. Hao Zhangxing stopped in his tracks instinctively. He turned to look at Wang Ting and asked, "What's the matter?" "Look." Yuan Jing's voice was trembling. Suddenly, Lei Hui's body started convulsing violently as though he was having a seizure. His body was arched. There seemed to be something wriggling beneath his flesh. Then, his body started expanding. Clang! The battle sword stabbed in his chest was squeezed out by his muscles and fell to the ground. Black smoke started wafting out of his wound. The wound healed rapidly, and Lei Hui bellowed in a low voice like a wild beast. "What is this?" Wang Ting intently stared at Lei Hui. He sensed a familiar aura, dark force. Why is there dark force on Earth? Wang Ting fixed his gaze on the changes happening to Lei Hui's body. He was puzzled. Lei Hui's body became bulkier. Moreover, black fur started emerging from his skin. "Retreat far away," Wang Ting opened his mouth and said. "Leader." Hao Zhangxing and the others didn't know what was going to happen. However, they felt a chill travel down their spine because of Lei Hui's change. A strong sense of danger enveloped them. They wanted to leave as soon as possible, but they couldn't just leave Wang Teng alone. "Go," Wang Teng said firmly. Dark apparitions were strange and hard to deal with. He was the only one who had seen one before. If any accident happened, his newbie classmates could be killed. When he noticed that Hao Zhangxing and the others were still standing around him, he explained, "This thing is no threat to me, but it's very dangerous for you guys. If it runs away, it will be extremely troublesome. You don't know the secret behind it, so just listen to what I say. Be careful." After hearing his explanation, Hao Zhangxing and the others knew that they wouldn't be of any help. They retreated far away while feeling bitter. Huff, puff. Heavy panting resounded in the area. Lei Hui slowly straightened his body. He was approximately more than 2 meters tall, and he was thick and bulky. His whole body was covered with black fur. When he raised his head, his entire face had changed. "Oh my God, it's a lichen." Hao Zhangxing couldn't help but exclaim when he saw the man's face. Lei Hui didn't look like a human anymore. Black fur was growing on his face, and 2 hideous fangs had popped out from the corner of his lips. He didn't look like a human or a wolf. Right now, his eyes had turned into the eyes of a beast. They were blood-red in color. Another type of dark apparition? Wang Ting sized it up. Howl. Lei Hui gave a low roar. He shouted at Wang Ting, "I'm unable to transform completely because of you. You deserve to die." He still has his senses. Wang Ting was startled. Ha, ha ha. Ha ha ha. Lei Hui laughed in anger when he noticed Wang Ting ignoring him. He smiled like a maniac and said, "I will tear you to pieces." No, I think he still got affected and turned more violent. He seems a little crazy, Wang Ting muttered. Lei Hui's wolfish face twitched a few times uncontrollably. He seemed to have reached the peak of his anger. "This fellow, do you want to kill me now?" Wang Ting asked. Lei Hui, "Do you feel like eating humans after you transform?" Wang Ting asked again when he didn't receive a reply from Lei Hui. Lei Hui, "Do you feel like drinking human blood?" Lei Hui, Hao Zhangxing and the others were stunned. "Why are you asking these weird questions? Shouldn't you kill him as quickly as you can? Are you doing a survey?" They exchanged glances with one another, shocked by Wang Ting's way of thinking. Wang Ting seemed very interested. He had many questions plaguing his mind. Suddenly, he thought of something and continued asking, "Oh right, what kind of mentality do you need for you to change into this ugly figure? Lei Hui, are you a psychopath?" Lei Hui's fury rose up a notch every time Wang Ting asked a question. He was about to explode soon. He didn't know why he listened to so many questions. Enough. Lei Hui shouted. He turned into a black shadow and disappeared on the spot. He charged towards Wang Ting's head. Slash. The next moment, a battle sword pierced through his heart. Lei Hui, what a similar scene. Lei Hui's eyes widened. He didn't even notice when Wang Ting had lifted his hand, but a sword was already in his chest. Why? He was curious. He had changed into a dark apparition and became so strong and frightening. Why was he still killed with a stab in his chest? What was wrong with this world? Lei Hui didn't understand. His mind was in a mess as he floated in mid-air. Chapter 266, Special Battle Technique, Dark Wind Bullet. Because you're too weak. Wang Ting decided to be kind and tell Lei Hui the answer when he saw his unwilling expression. Wait, why aren't you dead? He asked immediately after. He was flabbergasted. Die. Lei Hui didn't show any intention of replying to him. Instead, he screamed and started pushing his body down. His hands turned into claws as he scratched at Wang Ting's head. Wang Ting raised his fist and punched Lei Hui's claws away. Bang! A huge force caused Lei Hui to fly back. Lei Hui felt as if his claws had hit a hard metal surface. He wasn't able to cause any damage to Wang Ting's defense. Despite the overwhelming force, he flipped in the air and stepped on the wall at the side with both feet. Then, he ran out far away and escaped. He didn't get caught until now because he ran away whenever he had the chance. He was like a timid rat that only knew how to hide in the smelly ditch. Lei Hui's speed had increased tremendously after he turned into a lichen. He traveled on the walls as though he was running on the ground. But, this time, he had met his nemesis, Wang Ting. Steps of Gale. Wang Ting's speed shot up exponentially as he dashed towards Lei Hui. F***K. Lei Hui heard the sound of wind behind him. He turned, and his expression changed instantly. Wind force intertwined around his claws. They turned into sharp blades as he slashed them at Wang Ting. Slash. The wind blades rubbed against the air as they came for Wang Ting. Wang Ting moved his body slightly and evaded the wind blade attacks. Lei Hui continued attacking him with the wind blades, though. He was trying to slow down Wang Ting. However, Wang Ting didn't slow down even though he was evading the attacks. On the other hand, he became faster. The distance between them gradually got shorter. Don't struggle. It's useless. You can't run away, Wang Ting said calmly. Lei Hui didn't say anything. When Wang Ting got closer, he suddenly turned around and spurted a green-black light ball out of his mouth. They were extremely close already. Furthermore, Wang Ting didn't expect him to attack using his mouth. His heart skipped a beat. A sinister smile appeared at the corner of Lei Hui's lips. Boom! The green-black ball moved as fast as lightning. It landed on Wang Ting's body and exploded. In an instant, green-black light engulfed him. You will definitely die once you get hit by my attack. Lei Hui felt a little proud. This was his trump card. He would only use it during a crucial moment to kill his opponent when the other party least expected it. However, after the light dispersed, he realized in astonishment that Wang Ting wasn't hurt at all. A layer of yellow force was protecting Wang Ting. This is a defense battle technique. Lei Hui shouted in disbelief. Why was this happening to him? Lei Hui felt depressed. Why were all his attacks countered? Where did this weird young man emerge from? Wang Ting remained unscathed. He dashed forward abruptly while Lei Hui was in shock. Lei Hui wanted to dodge, but Wang Ting had already arrived beside him. He felt excruciating pain in his neck, and his world started spinning. Huh! Whose furry body is this? It's so ugly. This thought emerged in Lei Hui's mind before he lost consciousness. He sank into the dark. This time, he returned to the arms of darkness. The huge body collapsed on the ground. Wang Ting took a step forward. He heaved a sigh of relief after confirming that he was dead. He's finally dead. This fellow is good at running away. After Lei Hui died, a few attribute bubbles floated up. He picked them up. Wind Force *36 Intermediate Stage Wind Talent *5 Dark Wind Bullet *1 Dark Force *8 Wang Ting was amazed. Lei Hui had dropped many good things. He gave him so many attributes of Dark Force and Wind Force. Wang Ting was at 3-star soldier level for these two forces, so there was still a distance before he could advance. There was Intermediate Stage Wind Talent too. Wang Ting already possessed Intermediate Stage Wind Talent, so adding 5 more points of Intermediate Stage Wind Talent didn't cause any qualitative change. But his sensing of wind force became more sensitive. Intermediate Stage Wind Talent, 11,500 finally. There was a special battle technique, Dark Wind Bullet. This battle technique was the last skill Lei Hui used. He was able to spurt it out of his mouth and catch his opponent by surprise. It was an excellent skill to use. Good stuff. Wang Ting touched his chin. A sly smile gradually appeared at the corner of his lips. At this moment, Hao Zhangxing and the others gathered around and looked at Lei Hui's corpse on the ground. They were curious yet scared. This thing looked extremely unique. How could Lei Hui bear to let himself turn into a monster like this? How resolute was he? They couldn't understand his thirst for power. What on earth is this? Hao Zhangxing asked. Yuan Jing and the others looked at Wang Ting. They hoped to get some answers from him. Dark apparition, Wang Ting explained. Since they had already met one, there was nothing to hide. Also, they needed to know about it in the future anyway. There was no difference in letting them understand earlier. If you meet one alone in the future, run as far as you can. You will most probably die if you fight with it, Wang Ting said. They hurriedly nodded. After all, they had witnessed it personally just now. This creature didn't die even though it got stabbed in the heart. You needed to chop its head off. It wasn't easy to kill. They didn't have Wang Tenga ability, so they couldn't kill it as easily as him. But, it's strange. I met another dark apparition in the past, and it died after I stabbed its heart. Are lichen dark apparitions different? Wang Ting frowned and asked. Is there something strange with its heart? Yuan Jing suggested. Wang Ting nodded. He took out his phone and called the South City Police to clear the corpse. The policemen were already waiting nearby. They rushed over immediately when they received the call. Chief Shin came personally. When he saw Lei Hui's corpse, he cried in shock, dark apparition. Wang Ting wasn't surprised. The higher authorities probably knew about the dark apparitions. What happened? Chief Shin asked. Just like what you see. Lei Hui changed into a dark apparition, Wang Ting said. This bastard. He's crazy. Doesn't he know what this means? Chief Shin said angrily. Chief Shin, the difficulty of this mission exceeded its original level. Shouldn't you raise our reward? Wang Teng asked. Yes, I will. I will raise the reward to the correct difficulty level. Chief Shin nodded immediately. He smiled and said, You are really young and promising individuals. You are able to kill a dark apparition at such a young age. You have a bright future ahead. Hao Zhangxing and the others had strange expressions on their faces. Wang Ting's choice of missions was amazing. Accidents always happened, and the reward would increase. They didn't know if this was a good or bad thing. If a normal student met this kind of situation, they would have difficulty protecting themselves, much less completing the mission. Oh right, there's something strange about Lei Hui. I stabbed his heart just now, but he didn't die. Chief Shin, do you know the reason? Wang Teng asked. What? Chief Shin was dumbstruck. He pondered before replying, The police have no right to take care of a dark apparition's corpse. We need to hand it over to the military. I will report this situation to them and inform you after the anatomy results are out. Okay, thank you. Wang Teng said. Also, I feel that Lei Hui had a motive for coming back to Donghai. Also, we should find out how he got his method of changing into a dark apparition. Chief Shin, you should inform the military about this. Okay, don't worry. We are extremely prudent when dealing with dark apparitions, Chief Shin replied. Chapter 267, What a pity, how unfortunate. Sigh. Wang Teng and the others went back to school after handing over the mission to Chief Shin. Wang Teng didn't interfere in the battle with Lei Hui until he was out of options. Even when Hao Zhangxing and the others got injured, he didn't move. There would always be injuries during a battle. Wang Teng could ensure their survival, but he wouldn't protect them like a nanny. Thus, after completing the mission, they went back to school to recuperate. Chief Shin's reply came quickly. He added another 200 school credits in the afternoon. Wang Teng accepted it readily. 200 school credits were enough. As for Lei Hui's heart issue, he received a reply too. Lei Hui's heart position was different from a normal person's. It was slightly to the right, not a special ability because he turned into a dark apparition. Wang Ting heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. It would be heaven-defying if dark apparitions couldn't die after stabbing their hearts. They only suffered some minor injuries, so Wang Teng's team started another mission quickly. Time flew. In a blink of an eye, half a month had passed. Mind you, the students who were able to enter Huanghai Military Academy were all outstanding. Hao Zhangxing and the others matured quickly. They had started as newbies, but now, they were able to complete some one-star soldier-level missions with greater difficulties alone. Their mentality also underwent a transformation, becoming calmer and more decisive. Slowly but surely, they were turning into real martial warriors. This day, Wang Teng and the others went back to school to rest. Suddenly, they heard some bad news. Something happened to a team. It was a team from Battle Class 2. 2 students died, and 4 were seriously injured. The result was tragic. The instructors had already told them that there would be people getting injured and dying during missions. The students understood this too, but honestly, some of them weren't convinced until they experienced it personally. Hence, the team from Battle Class 2 got arrogant after doing a few simple missions and chose a 2-star soldier-level mission with a higher difficulty. In the end, the consequences were miserable because of some mistakes. Yes, an instructor was protecting them, but instructors weren't almighty. The students had been informed that the death rate would only be higher if they had the mentality that they were protected from the start. One's mentality was fundamental. They had to rely on themselves. However, the students were amazed that the instructor didn't manage to save the students. In the past, a few teams were saved by their instructors when they encountered dangers. You could only say that they were unlucky. The students from a top university with a bright future ahead died in their prime age. What a pity. How unfortunate. Sigh. Everyone was talking about this in the logistics building. Some teams were prepared to choose missions with higher difficulty levels, but they were frightened when they heard the news. They decided to play safe. When Li Wendong came back after getting information from other people, his mood was a little low. He said, "A lady and a guy died from the class next door. We have seen them before and are quite familiar with them. I didn't expect them to die like this. Do you know the reason?" Wang Teng asked. They went hunting for a 2-star star beast. The mission description claimed that there was only one, but there were two. They accidentally got ambushed by the other star beast, Li Wendong replied. Star beast. Some star beasts are harder to deal with than martial warriors. Also, they are smart and sly. These people are so careless. Where did they get the guts to choose this mission after only half a month of training? Hao Zhangxing said. But this also proves that the description of the mission might not be accurate. Accidents could always happen, Yuan Jing analyzed. That's right. Accidents also happened during the 2 missions we chose. We might have become the morning party for our classmates if it wasn't for our leader, Hao Zhangxing said with lingering fears. Let's not talk about this anymore. Let's be more careful when choosing missions in the future and not end up like them, Li Wendong said. 2 days later. In a mountain near the edge of Donghai, Hao Zhangxing smashed the backbone of a wolf-star beast with his rod. He ended its life as it howled in agony. Star beasts are really hard to deal with. The students were panting heavily, and there were injuries all over their bodies. Blood was oozing out of a few wounds, drenching their outfits. They bared their teeth from the pain. They looked at Wang Ting with anger and bitterness in their eyes. The moment he heard that someone died in the hands of star beasts, Wang Teng accepted a 1-star star beast hunting mission from the City Protection Bureau. Did he have to torture them like this? Although Wang Ting was doing this for their sake, it was still vicious. He didn't even give them any reaction time. Wang Teng ignored them. He picked up the 2 attribute bubbles dropped by the star beast in front. Wood Force *20 blank attribute *14. As the Wood Force merged into his Force nucleus, Wang Ting suddenly shuddered. Wood Element 4-star soldier level accomplish. Wood Force, December 2000, 4-star, Wang Ting smiled brightly. He said to his teammates, "Let's go. We need to hurry back and attend to your wounds. You have almost lost all your blood." Hao Zhangxing and the others lowered their heads and looked down. There was indeed a pool of blood on the ground. They felt dizzy and started crying. I'm going to die. Quick, we need to go back. Wang Ting shook his head speechlessly. After Wang Teng left, Liu Feng appeared on the scene. He frowned as he muttered to himself, more and more star beasts have been appearing everywhere on Earth. Even traces of dark apparitions got more frequent. Everyone is starting to do small actions. Troubled times. Another week passed. Wang Teng's team had completed 3 more missions. They were all quite difficult, and their completion degree was high. As the missions progressed, most of the work was done by Hao Zhangxing and the other 6 team members. Wang Teng only appeared at the end and didn't do anything most of the time. This made Liu Feng very surprised. At first, he didn't have high hopes for Hao Zhangxing and the other students. After all, this team was the weakest in the class. Putting Wang Teng inside was to standardize their ability. Wang Teng was strong, but the instructors didn't believe that he could lead this team to great heights. It would be good enough if their school credits were the mean of the other freshman teams. Unfortunately, the instructors were wrong. Wang Teng managed to lead this newbie team to the top. Liu Feng even felt that Wang Teng's team could be top 3 in terms of ability now. Of course, Wang Teng was an exception. If he included him, their team would undoubtedly be number 1. At night, in a dark alley, a figure was escaping at the front with 3 people hot on his tail. "Don't run," someone shouted. Of course, the more he shouted, the faster the person in front ran. But, as he was passing a crossroad, a black figure dashed out from the alley at the side abruptly. Bang! With a low thud, the escaping figure fell to the ground. He fainted on the spot. "Chen-ph, who asked you to run?" The others gathered around. The moonlight shone on them, revealing their faces. It was Hao Zhangxing and his friends. Leader's method is really useful. Did we manage to ambush a 1-star soldier-level peak martial warrior? Hao Zhangxing said in disbelief. Chapter 268. Chen Yang became arrogant again. He got depressed again. In the dark and small alley, a few figures were surrounding an unconscious person and commenting in low voices. They would snigger occasionally. The whole scene looked eerie. People might think that this was a bunch of perverts planning something disgusting. Enough. Wang Ting looked at them speechlessly. It was just a small trick. Did they have to kick up such a huge fuss? Move, let me do something. He waved his hands to ask the others to move away. Then, he took out a brick and started hitting the unconscious person's head furiously. Hao Zhangxing and the others felt their faces twitching. This young man was too ruthless. They exchanged glances with one another. They saw the same thought on each other's faces. Was their leader's mind twisted? A few moments later, Wang Ting raised his head. He looked delighted and refreshed. He had received 8 points of spirit attribute. Hao Zhangxing and the others weren't looking at him, pretending not to see anything. I hate this kind of scum, Wang Ting muttered to himself as if he was explaining his actions. Hao Zhangxing and the others didn't believe him at all. They all sniggered in their hearts. You also hit people who aren't scum. Let's go. This is the last mission. We will be calculating our scores tomorrow, Wang Ting said. Hehe, I wonder where we are ranked, Hao Zhangxing said excitedly. Our school credits shouldn't be too low. Liu Feng walked out from the dark as their voices slowly faded. The corners of his lips twitched as he said, your school credits are exceptionally high. The next day, all the freshmen gathered in the stadium once again. The whole place was filled with the sounds of discussions. Everyone had changed after the baptism of that 1 month. After going through the actual combat missions, most of them had taken a few lives. Hence, the change in their aura was obvious. They weren't as tender as they were before, becoming more mature. Of course, some people got arrogant. Do you know that our team went to search for a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior? It was so dangerous. Fortunately, our leader managed to turn the tide at the last moment and kill the target by injuring himself, a student was talking excitedly. Your team dared to take a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior task. We only took 1-star soldier-level peak martial warrior missions, someone else exclaimed. It's nothing. Chen Yang waved his hand and pretended to be humble. However, the smile at the edge of his lips exposed his delight. Leader, don't be humble. Our team is able to receive so many school credits because of you, the student continued to curry favor with Chen Yang. Keep a low profile. Chen Yang smiled and shook his head. Hey, Wang Teng and his team are back, someone suddenly shouted. The members in Wang Teng's team are the weakest. I wonder how many school credits they got. Not many, right? The others are just burdens. It's already a miracle that they managed to come back alive. A small discussion on Wang Teng's team started in the stadium. Chen Yang smiled brightly. He walked over to Wang Teng and said, Wang Ting, let's see whose school credits are higher. The loser will. No. Wang Ting waved his hand and replied directly. Chen Yang, damn it, can you let me finish my sentence? You don't dare to bet with me because you know that your school credits are too low, right? You probably wasted your month, Chen Yang mocked. Hao Zhangxing and the others glared at him angrily. Did this fellow think that he was amazing? Why was he mocking them for no reason? Ah, yes. It feels good to waste time. Wang Teng remained indifferent as he replied lazily. Chen Yang choked on his own sentence. This fellow always had surprising remarks. Was it fun to be unique? Chen Yang, you said that you wanted to challenge our leader in the past, but you don't even dare to fight with him. Why do you have the face to mock us now? Li Wendong said. I had a problem when I was cultivating. It wasn't because I didn't dare to fight with him. Wang Ting, why don't we arrange a time for a battle? Chen Yang's expression froze as he laughed awkwardly. Wang Ting tilted his head and looked at him. Then, he smiled and replied, okay. Chen Yang's gaze froze. When? Don't tell me it's 1 month later again, Wang Ting said. Ha ha ha. 1 month might not be enough. You might have to wait 1 year, Hao Zhangxing laughed and said. Chen Yang's expression turned ugly. He glared at Hao Zhangxing coldly and replied, How about tomorrow? Tomorrow is a rest day. Okay. Wang Ting nodded. Chen Yang didn't say anything after this. He snorted and turned around to leave with his teammates. Brother Teng, is that fellow planning to challenge you again? Hu Pingliang walked over and asked. Haha, yes. He had probably solved his cultivation issue now. Wang Ting smiled and replied. Who believes that bullshit? Chen Yang probably felt that his ability increased tremendously and got a little overconfident. Hu Pingliang said. I think that he isn't stupid. He's able to kill a 2-star star beast, so he might have become a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior. Lu Shu shook his head and said. He was in the same team as Hu Pingliang. Even if he's a 2-star soldier-level martial warrior, the difference is still vast. Bailey Qingfeng glanced at Wang Teng. The heads are here. Song Shuhang suddenly shouted. The heads had all come together. They asked everyone to stand in their teams before Tong, who stood up and said, Today, the actual combat missions have ended. Unfortunately, 2 of our students have left us forever. The atmosphere turned a little heavy. This is what I've reminded you about at the start. As a martial warrior, you must always be prepared to face death. I will not repeat what I've said. You must have already felt it personally. It will be more difficult when you carry out missions alone in the future. I hope that all of you can take care of yourself. Now, I will announce the overall credit ranking. Tong, who looked at the long list in his hand and coughed. This is a little long. You can take a look when I paste it on the notice board later. I will just announce the top 3 teams. Everyone felt speechless. Head Tong, who was a carefree person. In third place, we have Chen Yang's team from Battle Class 1. They have a total of 1220 school credits. What? Our team is only in third place? Chen Yang's expression changed slightly. He couldn't accept the fact. Tong, who glanced at him and didn't bother to answer him. He continued, in the second place, we have Hu Pingliang's team from Battle Class 1. They have 1360 school credits. 140 more credits than us. Chen Yang felt depressed. Why are they all from Battle Class 1? The students from other classes looked at each other. In the first place, we have Wang Ting's team from Battle Class 1. Tong, who paused for a moment before saying, they have 2,300 school credit. Battle Class 1 again. Oh my god, 2,300 school credits. What missions did Wang Ting's team do? Why are their credits so high? Everyone was in shock. They glanced at Wang Ting's team. How is that possible? Chen Yang's face turned pale. Wang Ting's team had 1080 more credits than him. Why did he even think of fighting with them? Chapter 269. Out of the ivory tower. Once Wang Ting's team's school credits were announced, everyone was startled, especially when they exceeded the second team by close to 1,000 points. At the start, everyone felt that Wang Ting wouldn't be able to lead the team properly because the weak students would be a burden to him. Hence, even if their team wasn't the last, they wouldn't have a high score. A strong person in the team didn't mean that the team would be strong. However, Wang Ting was much stronger than they had imagined. He was able to lead his team to the top no matter how weak it was. There was another point that they couldn't accept. The top 3 teams were all from Battle Class 1. When Head Tong announced the third and second position, they still wondered if the others could get first place. However, when the top position was revealed, it was still from Battle Class 1. The instructors from other classes felt embarrassed. A dangerous glint appeared in their eyes as they glanced at their students. It looked like they weren't training them hard enough. On the other hand, the instructors from Battle Class 1 were full of smiles. Before the other instructors could say anything, they smiled and cupped their hands together. Thank you, thank you. The expressions on the other instructors' faces turned worse. Besides Battle Class 1, the other students felt a chill down their spines. Was it already winter? Did the temperature drop? The heads left after the results were announced. The instructors talked to the students for some time and left too. It was the weekend. The students were able to rest for 2 days before starting their lessons. In the stadium, the students were talking about the missions. They left in small groups. Chen Yang hid among the crowd, wanting to leave secretly. Chen Yang, remember our battle tomorrow, Wang Ting shouted at his back. Chen Yang stumbled. He turned his head awkwardly and said in embarrassment, Wang Teng, I think that I haven't completely healed from the injury last time. I feel uncomfortable again. Why don't we fight another time? You look radiant. You don't seem to have any problem, Wang Ting said indifferently. Ah, my chest, it hurts. Chen Yang clutched his chest violently. His face turned pale, and he vomited blood. Wang Ting, the people around them were stunned. What was going on? Wang Ting, look, my injury relapsed again. Let's fight another time, Chen Yang said pitifully. Wang Ting's expression was strange. He was caught between laughter and tears as he waved and said, Go ahead. Think carefully before you challenge me again. Chen Yang scurried off. He was extremely embarrassed, and his face was scorching. He didn't mind fighting, but he didn't want to get tortured. When he heard Wang Ting's team's school credits, he woke up from his stupor. His arrogance burst immediately. Wang Ting loved to hit people's heads. He wasn't stupid. He wouldn't fight with him when he knew that he couldn't win. As for his pride, he would feel even more humiliated if he got turned into a pig's head. Once Chen Yang left, everyone burst out laughing. Some confused students started laughing too when they heard what happened. Chen Yang was hilarious. He challenged Wang Ting twice and ran away twice. He kept humiliating himself. Some restless students who wanted to challenge Wang Ting threw this thought away after they saw Chen Yang's plight. Their difference was still too wide. After an internal agreement, the team decided to let Wang Ting take 30% of the accumulated school credits. The remaining 70% would be evenly split among the other students. No one felt that Wang Ting took too much. Instead, they thought that he took too little. He was crucial during the missions. Without Wang Ting, they wouldn't even get 300 school credits. Besides, their actual combat skills had also improved vastly. This wasn't something that could be gauged using the school credits. However, Wang Ting didn't ask for more. This percentage was good enough. His teammates were the ones completing most of the missions in the second half of the month. He was only in charge of picking up attributes. Hao Zhengxing and the rest didn't know that they provided free labor for him. It was a win-win situation. After getting the school credits, Hao Zhengxing and the others returned the credits they borrowed back to Wang Ting. The team mission ended successfully. Hence, the temporary team dispersed. The school resumed normal lessons in the next few days. However, everyone quickly realized that there were lesser theory lessons. More free time was given to the students to allow them to arrange their own cultivation. Wang Ting was busy picking up attributes. At the same time, he continued challenging the top 100 students in the school as his master, Dan Taixian, instructed. However, the seniors at the top were often not in school, especially the top 10 students. None of them were in school, so Wang Ting couldn't find them. He had no choice but to stop his challenges. Today, Wang Ting was picking up attributes in the actual combat training building when his water force suddenly reached 4-star soldier level. Water force, March 2000, 4-star, this is it. All my 5 elements have reached 4-star soldier level. Wang Ting smiled. Then, he frowned immediately. The upgrading speed is getting slow if I continue picking up attributes in school. Wang Ting started contemplating. The stronger students in the school were mostly outside doing missions or cultivating while traveling. You wouldn't be able to see them in public areas. The students normally seen in school weren't very strong, so the attributes they dropped weren't a lot. To Wang Ting, it was extremely inadequate. I am as strong as the top 10 students in school now. I can't waste my time in school. It's time to walk out of the ivory tower, Wang Ting thought to himself. He came to look for his instructor and told him his plan. You want to take a long break? Liu Feng looked at Wang Ting in surprise. Yes, Wang Ting answered decisively. He had thought about this carefully. Why? Liu Feng asked. My ability. Wang Ting didn't complete his sentence. But Liu Feng understood. It was true that Wang Ting's ability wasn't on the same level as the other freshmen. It was disadvantageous for Wang Ting's cultivation if they forcefully placed him together with them. What about your theoretical knowledge? Liu Feng hesitated and asked. I will take the exam at the end of the semester. At that time, I will get a satisfactory score, Wang Teng promised. Liu Feng was still in a dilemma. He smiled bitterly and said, I can't decide this. Follow me to see the head, and let's see what he has to say. Wang Teng and Liu Feng came to Tong Hu's office. They stared at each other for a moment before Tong Hu brought Wang Teng to President Peng Yuanshan's office. All right, I understand. Wang Teng can stay. Head Tong and Instructor Liu, you can go back first, Peng Yuanshan said calmly. Yes. After the two of them left, Peng Yuanshan looked at Wang Teng and smiled. I knew that you will make this request one day. All the outstanding students like to act alone. You are no exception. Chapter 270, Departure and Travel President. This is not about acting alone. At this stage, I have no choice but to make this decision, Wang Teng said helplessly. You're right. Peng Yuanshan nodded. It's unfair to put you with the other freshmen with your ability. It's not about fairness. Everyone has their own path. This is just my choice, Wang Teng said. I will accept your request. Peng Yuanshan didn't say anything else. He agreed. Thank you, President. Wang Teng was grateful. Every school had its rules. Especially in Huanghai Military Academy, the rules were stricter. Freshmen were not allowed to leave the school for no reason. However, Peng Yuanshan had made an exception for him. Don't thank me so early. I will allow you to take a long break, but you must promise me a few things, Peng Yuanshan said. Please say it. I don't care how you study. In the semester finals, you must get excellent marks for all your courses. You will also have to reach 5-star soldier level, Peng Yuanshan said. No problem, Wang Ting agreed without any hesitation. Peng Yuanshan probably didn't know that these weren't difficult for him at all. He would only need to spend some time picking up attributes for his theory courses. By then, it would be hard for him to fail. As for reaching 5-star soldier level, he was only one level away. There was still a long time until the semester exam. He would definitely be able to reach it. That was a fast reply. It looks like you're really confident. Is my request a little too low? Peng Yuanshan smiled and asked. I think that it's enough. We need to give the other students some room to catch up with me. If I stand out too much, they will feel inferior, Wang Teng replied shamelessly. You little brat. Peng Yuanshan pointed at him with his index finger. He then shook his head and laughed. What plans do you have? I will go to the Xingwu continent, Wang Teng replied. I guessed that. Peng Yuanshan pondered before suggesting, when you go to the Xingwu continent, don't just think about killing star beasts and doing missions. There are many things you can learn there. From what I know, some people disguise themselves as locals and merge with the people there. They roam the Xingwu continent to acquire their knowledge and wisdom. You will have many gains. You can do that. Wang Teng opened his eyes wide. How do you think we interacted with them at the start? Peng Yuanshan said meaningfully. I see. Wang Teng touched his chin. He was enlightened. We merged into their culture and stole their knowledge. We shortened the gap between us. By the time they reacted, we could already speak to them on the same level. We have our advantage, and they have theirs. We have common interests and goals, so we can maintain this so-called peace, Peng Yuanshan said. Is it because of dark apparitions? Wang Teng asked. Not really. Peng Yuanshan stopped talking. You're leaving me hanging again. Wang Teng was speechless. He changed the topic when he noticed that the president had no intention of continuing. Can't the martial warriors from the Xingwu continent tell that we're in disguise? As long as you don't meet someone with strong spiritual power, they won't notice anything amiss. Peng Yuanshan said, of course, it won't be a problem if you have a way to hide your spiritual mark. Spiritual mark? This was the first time Wang Ting had heard of this phrase. He was curious. Do you know why people from the Xingwu continent aren't able to pass through the dimensional rifts? Peng Yuanshan asked. Could it be because of the spiritual mark? Wang Teng replied, yes. Based on our research, every world has its own mark. All the locals in that world have this mark. It's in their spirit, Peng Yuanshan explained. That's why people with strong spiritual power can tell the difference in the spiritual marks. Wang Ting took over the conversation. That's right. Peng Yuanshan nodded. Why can we pass through the dimensional rifts then? This was the biggest question Wang Teng had. It didn't make sense. This is related to world repelling, Peng Yuanshan said. Are you saying that our world repels them, but their world doesn't repel us? Wang Teng was dumbstruck. Did the different worlds have their own conscience? Could things get more outrageous? You can say that. Peng Yuanshan felt that he spoke too much, so he waved his hands and asked Wang Teng to leave. All right, you will know it when you should. There's no use in asking so many questions now. Leave, leave. Don't bother me. Wait, you can't leave me hanging. This is so uncomfortable. Wang Teng felt extremely frustrated. However, he still got chased out of the office by Peng Yuanshan. One day later, Wang Teng finished his preparations. He informed his family and told them not to worry. He even called Lin Chuhan to tell her his schedule in case she worried when she couldn't find him. Then, he passed through the dimensional rift and left Earth. Yong City. Wang Teng bought a few Xingwu continent attires. The attires here were quite vintage. Humans here were similar to the humans on Earth. There were both white and yellow-skin humans. Their attires were different too. It was like the difference in Eastern and Western culture. Wang Teng was a yellow-skin human. When he wore the ancient-looking attire, his aura changed entirely. He wore an amazing outfit and carried his weapon carrier casket behind his back. He was like a handsome young master traveling through the pugilistic world. He was imposing, carefree, and charismatic. A person with a handsome face would look good in anything he wore. Wang Ting stared at the mirror and shook his head. He felt frustrated. Sigh, I wonder how many innocent young ladies will be charmed by me after getting his clothes. Wang Ting arrived at the Force Floating Airship Transfer Station in Yong City. He was going to head to the other cities where Xingwu continent locals were gathered. The transfer station was packed with people. You could see many different races rushing along with their luggage bags, chasing after their force floating airship. Shouts were heard everywhere, making the scene noisy. After asking the person at the ticketing counter, Wang Teng learned that the nearest city was Yang City. He decided to make that his first destination. Please give me a ticket to Yang City. Wang Ting spoke to the beautiful lady at the counter. The counter lady looked at Wang Ting's face. Her eyes shimmered slightly as she said, "Okay, please wait for a moment." After Wang Ting paid, she quickly handed him a ticket through the window. The force floating airship heading to Yang City is about to depart. The force floating airship heading to Yang City is about to depart. Passengers who haven't boarded the airship, please board as soon as possible. An announcement rang out from the broadcast system. Wang Ting hastened his pace and finally managed to catch the force floating airship that was about to depart. Get in quickly. If you were a little later, you would have to wait 3 more hours, the ticket officer smiled and said. Thank you. Wang Ting thanked the officer and stepped into the force floating airship. Wait, wait. At that moment, a voice came from behind him. Wang Ting looked behind. 2 young ladies around 17 years old were running over frantically. It looks like I'm not the only lucky person. Wang Ting smiled. He didn't take much notice of the 2 ladies and stepped into the force floating airship. He found a corner seat and closed his eyes to rest. After some time, the force floating airship shuddered slightly and rose into the sky. Wang Ting looked out of the window. The building and humans below were becoming smaller and smaller. Finally, they turned into tiny dots. Qingshan, there are free seats here, a voice broke his train of thought. Wang Ting turned and saw the 2 ladies from earlier walking over. Hello, we can't find any empty seats. Can we sit here? The 2 ladies looked around his age, and they were very pretty, especially the lady who spoke. She wore a long black dress, and her aura was elegant and noble. Sure, Wang Ting nodded and replied. Thank you. Fei Qingxin thanked him. You're welcome. No one was sitting here anyway, Wang Ting said. You're a bad guy. You keep staring at our Qingxin. The other lady beside her suddenly rolled her eyes at Wang Ting. Wang Ting, wasn't it normal to size up a beauty when he saw one? Why was he a bad guy? Ciao ciao. Fei Qingxin scolded her friend. She turned and said to Wang Ting, don't listen to her bullshit. My name is Fei Qingxin. This is Meng Qiao. What about you? You both are not just beautiful, but even your names are pleasant. Wang Ting smiled and said, Wang Ting. Your name doesn't sound like a good person's, Meng Qiao said. She didn't seem to like Wang Ting. Wang Ting, my bestie has a sharp tongue. Ignore her. Fei Qingxin smiled awkwardly. Did you come from another city? Did you come to take a look at this city built by the other world? Other world. Wang Ting thought to himself. In the past, they always referred to the Xingwu continent as the other world. This was the first time he heard someone calling Earth the other world. He found it strange, but he still nodded and said, yes. I came here because I was curious. Are you locals from Yang City? Yes, we sneaked out. Fei Qingxin stuck out her tongue cheekily. She asked, what about you? Where are you from? I am from another province. I'm traveling the Xingwu continent and am preparing to visit Yang City. Wang Ting had already thought of his excuse. There were 5 main provinces in the Xingwu continent, and every single one of them was vast. If he claimed that he was from a faraway province, no one would be able to find anything. You must be very strong since you're able to travel the Xingwu continent at such a young age, Fei Qingxin said in admiration. TSK, Qingxin, don't get fooled by him. Look at how clean he is. He doesn't look like someone who has been traveling for long. I think that he's a liar who's good at swindling young ladies. Meng Qiao came to expose him again. She didn't care about what he thought. I can't bathe. Wang Ting was speechless. PH, who knows if you're telling the truth? You don't look like a good person. You look like a pretty boy. You must be weak, Meng Qiao scoffed. Ciao ciao, this is too much. Fei Qingxin smiled apologetically at Wang Ting. She hurriedly pulled Meng Qiao away. What's wrong with you? Why are you targeting him? I'm not targeting him. He's just suspicious. Qingxin, I promised your brother that I will take good care of you. I can't let you get fooled by those stupid guys outside, Meng Qiao said. Phut, what do you mean by getting fooled by stupid guys? Am I an idiot? Fei Qingxin rebuked. How will I know? The words so handsome were almost written in your eyes when you looked at him, Meng Qiao said with disdain. I didn't. Fei Qingxin immediately blushed. Chapter 271, Force floating airship attack. The distance between Yang City and Yong City wasn't short. The force floating airship could help save a lot of time. Fei Qingxin was afraid that Meng Qiao would cause more trouble after what she had done, so she stopped chatting with Wang Ting. After she sat down, she smiled apologetically at Wang Ting and closed her eyes to rest. Meng Qiao glared at Wang Ting. She seemed a little delighted, as if she felt proud that she was able to convince Fei Qingxin to stay away from Wang Ting. Wang Ting shook his head and smiled. He didn't mind. They were just strangers he met on his journey. Traveling could be boring. If they were able to talk, they could chat with each other. If they couldn't, they could just rest. No harm was caused. When Wang Ting boarded the force floating airship, it was past 2 p.m. Time flew. Soon, it was evening. There were still 2 more hours until they reached Yang City. It was dinner time, so many people were heading to the restaurant on the force floating airship. Wang Ting was hungry too. He got up and walked to the restaurant. Fei Qingxin and Meng Qiao got up at the same time. Meng Qiao pouted unhappily when she noticed that Wang Ting was preparing to go there too. What a coincidence. She looked at Wang Ting's back view curiously. Could he have heard our conversation just now? He knows that we are going to the restaurant, so he's going there first. That way, he can greet us later and prevent us from suspecting that he followed us. Ciao ciao, Why are you always discriminating against him? Fei Qingxin said unhappily. She felt that Meng Qiao was being unreasonable. All right. I won't talk about him anymore. Meng Qiao shook her head helplessly. But, in her heart, she sighed. Her bestie was still being stubborn. Wang Ting had already entered the restaurant. He didn't know what Meng Qiao said behind his back. If he did, he would probably snigger. This lady was a drama queen. The restaurant was decorated lavishly. The entire area was segregated into two sections, normal food section and the force dishes section. Wang Ting walked directly to the force dishes section. It was worth mentioning that the Xingwu continent used gold coins, silver coins, and bronze coins as their currency. You could exchange the coins at a fixed ratio. Force stones could be used too. In fact, force stones could be used as a currency anywhere. Of course, it was mainly used between martial warriors. Wang Ting changed some gold coins when he came. Besides, he had gathered many force stones on his previous visits. The force dishes section only accepted force stones. Force dishes were made for martial warriors, so it was more appropriate to use the martial warriors' currency. Wang Ting ordered a few dishes and sat down to enjoy them alone. The normal dishes felt tasteless now that he got used to eating force dishes. It was easier to get rich but harder to go back to poverty. Wang Ting shook his head as he lamented in his heart. Fortunately, he wasn't poor. Fei Qingxin and Meng Qiao saw Wang Ting ordering many force dishes when they arrived at the restaurant. It was extremely extravagant. He was eating his dishes happily. This pretty boy is quite rich. We don't even dare to eat so much. Is he a rich young master who sneaked out of his family? In that case, you need to be more careful. This kind of person is skilled at fooling young ladies, Meng Qiao said. Fei Qingxin was a little astounded. After she heard Meng Qiao's words, she rolled her eyes uncontrollably. What was wrong with her bestie today? She didn't like Wang Ting at all. No matter what he did, it was wrong in her eyes. She didn't say anything, though. There was no need to make her bestie unhappy because of someone she just met. The two of them ordered a few force dishes that weren't expensive and started eating and chatting happily. Suddenly, the force floating airship vibrated violently. What is happening? The people in the restaurant were shaken. Everyone jumped to their feet. The force floating airship was a stable airship, unlike airplanes. Why did it vibrate suddenly? Such accidents rarely happened. Look, there are so many birds outside. Someone shouted in fright. What? Aren't there martial warriors clearing this air route regularly? Why are there bird star beasts? There was an uproar, and some started to feel scared. Getting attacked by bird star beasts wasn't a small matter. The airship might get destroyed, and they might get killed. Some low-class martial warriors would definitely fall to their deaths after dropping from such a high distance, much less normal people. Also, below them was a primary forest. Even if they survived the fall, they might become dinner for other star beasts. Everyone, a flock of bird star beasts are attacking us furiously. The defense rune array of the force floating airship can only survive for a few minutes. The situation is critical. We hope that the martial warriors on board can help. Once we pass this ordeal, we will reward everyone accordingly. An agitated voice was heard on the broadcast system. The gazes of the martial warriors in the restaurant flickered. After looking at one another, they ran out. All of them were on this force floating airship. If the force floating airship was destroyed, they wouldn't be able to escape. The reward didn't matter. They just wanted to protect themselves. Why do we have to meet this? Meng Qiao's face was pale. She grabbed Fei Qingxin's hand while feeling at a loss. Don't worry. There are many martial warriors on the force floating airship. We will be fine. Fei Qingxin forced herself to calm down. She patted the back of Meng Qiao's hand as she consoled her. Yes, there are many martial warriors. We will be fine. Meng Qiao nodded continuously as if she was encouraging herself. The two of them observed the situation outside through the windows in the restaurant. Meng Qiao suddenly saw the figure who was still calmly eating food in the restaurant. She frowned and barked, "Hey, Why aren't you helping them? The situation is so dangerous, but you still have the heart to eat. They are able to handle the issue. It's useless for me to go out. Wang Ting had used his spiritual sight to scan the surroundings just now. Based on the intensity and number of lights, he predicted that the human martial warriors had an overwhelming advantage. These bird star beasts wouldn't be able to cause any harm. They would only be slaughtered. As for him, he would just eat his food and pick up the attribute bubbles dropped by the bird star beasts using his spiritual power. How delightful was that? Also, other than him, many other martial warriors had similarly remained silent. They had arrived at the same conclusion. The other martial warriors looked at Wang Ting in surprise when they heard this. This young man was strong. Meng Qiao had no idea about this, so she thought that he was only making an excuse. He just didn't have the guts to go out. You coward, why did you come up with so many excuses when you don't dare to go out and kill the star beasts? This is disgusting. Wang Ting frowned uncontrollably. Anyone would get angry when they got targeted again and again. Before he could reply to her, Meng Qiao turned her head and said to Fei Qingxin, "Qingxin, look. This fellow looks impressive but lacks real worth. Traveling the continent. I think that he's just using it as a lie to fool young ladies. Don't get too close to him." Fei Qingxin was frowning slightly too. However, she just pulled Meng Qiao and said in a low voice, "Forget it. He has his own plans. We can't force him to do anything." She sounded a little distant. What's this? Wang Ting felt frustrated. He didn't want to argue with the two young ladies, so he got up and left the restaurant. He's just putting on a show. He doesn't have the face to stay here anymore after we exposed him, Meng Qiao said with disdain. Chapter 272, Ghostfire Talent. Wang Ting came to the platform outside the force-floating airship. He saw a layer of yellow glow covering the entire force-floating airship like a giant bubble. The fight between the martial warriors and the bird star beasts had come to an end. The red fire sparrows had flames all over their bodies. Balls of fire kept spurting out of their mouths as they attacked the force-floating airship and the martial warriors on it. However, most of them were 1-star level. Only a few of them had reached 2-star. Thus, they posed no threat to the martial warriors. The corpses of the fire sparrows fell from the sky above. Some landed on the platform, while others dropped directly to the primary forest below. The force-floating airship continued on its fixed route. It wouldn't stop to pick up the corpses of these fire sparrows. Furthermore, it was a primary forest, which was extremely dangerous. The corpses of the fire sparrows might have been eaten by other star beasts by the time they went down. Fortunately, many fire sparrows' corpses dropped on the platform, so the martial warriors managed to earn a fair amount of money. They would decide how the items would be split among themselves. It had nothing to do with Wang Ting. He had already gotten what he wanted. Fire Force *90 blank attribute *200. As their names implied, these fire sparrows were undoubtedly fire element star beasts. They gave him 90 points of Fire Force. Fire Force 715 2000, 4-star. Wang Ting smiled when he saw the rise in his Fire Force on his attributes panel. This was a good sign. Including the past blank attributes he had collected, he had a total of 750 blank attributes now for his emergency needs. After the battle ended, everyone in the force-floating airship heaved a sigh of relief. No other accidents happened during the rest of the journey. 2 hours later, the force-floating airship slowly landed in a prosperous and massive city. Wang Ting walked down from the force-floating airship. There were many similar airships parked on the plaza in front of them. Lights were shining down from the sky as more force-floating airships came towards the city from afar. They landed on the plaza. The plaza was filled with people. It was bustling. Yong City was a huge and prosperous city. Numerous people traveled here or left this place on force-floating airships every day. Fei Qingxin and Meng Qiao walked down from the force-floating airship too. When they walked past Wang Ting, Fei Qingxin bade farewell to him politely. Wang Ting, we're leaving first. Hope to see you again. Meng Qiao didn't even look at him. She pulled Fei Qingxin and left in a hurry as though he was some sort of a virus. Looking at them, he knew that her words were just polite. They probably hoped that they would never see him again. Wang Ting shook his head. It was irritating enough to meet a lady like Meng Qiao. He hoped that he would never meet them again, or else he might hit her uncontrollably. He followed the crowd and walked out of the plaza. He asked for directions before heading into the city. Even at night, Yong City remained noisy and lively. All the buildings along the street were lit up brightly, and the entire city was ablaze with lights. Small shops and stalls were everywhere. The cries of street vendors echoed in the air. The buildings in the city were magnificent, and the shops along the streets sold all kinds of high-class items. They were all exquisite and extravagant. It was overwhelming for the passers-by, who could indulge in pleasures without stopping. However, Wang Teng came from Earth, so he had seen this kind of scene before. He wasn't surprised. Still, the city streets of the Xingwu continent gave him another perspective of this world. Peng Yuanshan was right. He might be able to see extraordinary things if he came out to travel. Haiyu Hotel. Wang Teng stopped outside a building. Let's stay here. I heard good reviews along the way. When he walked in, someone came to welcome him immediately. The person bowed and asked, "Mister, are you staying or eating? Please give me one of your best rooms," Wang Teng said. "All right, follow me." The attendant brought Wang Teng to the lobby and booked a room for him. Then, he passed him the keys. "This is your room. It's on the 3rd floor, the 5th room after you turn left. Do you need me to bring you up?" the attendant asked. "No. I will go by myself." Wang Teng rejected him and came to the 3rd floor alone. He opened his room and scanned it once. The facilities inside were complete and beautiful. This was how a 5-star presidential suite in the Xingwu continent should look like. As expected, as long as you had the money, you could get anything. He opened the window. After some time, a black dot landed from the sky and stopped outside the window. It was the spirit flame ghost crow. The little crow was a good helper. Besides, it needed to raise its ability too. Naturally, Wang Teng brought it along so that they could progress together. "Are you full?" Wang Teng smiled and asked. When the force-floating airship was attacked by the fire sparrows, he had ordered his little crow to dine on the dead fire sparrows secretly. That was why he asked the question. "Caw, caw." The little crow cried 2 times. It seemed to be in a good mood. It suddenly lowered its head and spat out a fiery red ball-like object with an uneven surface. It raised its head and looked at Wang Teng. "Star core." Wang Teng was shocked. This was a 1-star star core. The little crow got a 1-star star core? Wang Ting was dumbfounded. He thought of something and asked, "Is this the star core of a fire sparrow?" They were able to understand each other through the pet contract, so the little crow nodded. "Really?" Wang Teng exclaimed. "You are quite lucky." On the force-floating airship, he had heard that none of the martial warriors managed to get the most worthy items, a star core or a star bone. After all, the intelligence and level of the fire sparrows weren't that high. Yet, his little crow managed to pick up one. "Are you sharing your master's good luck?" Wang Ting touched his chin and muttered to himself. "Caw, caw. You want to eat this?" Wang Ting asked in astonishment. Through the pet contract, Wang Ting could feel the little crow's desire. He said immediately, "Eat it then. You are the one who found it." It hurt a little, but it was good for the little crow. He wouldn't be stingy. This bit of money was nothing to him. When the little crow got stronger, he could get it back from it with interest. After the little crow got Wang Ting's consent, he picked up the fire element star core. It swallowed the star core in one mouth, not knowing what its unscrupulous master was planning. Once the fire element star core went down his throat, its body was covered with a red glow. A wisp of flame spurted out of the little crow's body. Wang Ting suddenly remembered that the little crow had another talent called ghost fire. However, it hadn't awakened this talent yet. From the name, one could tell that this was a fire element offensive talent. Was the fire element star core about to activate the little crow's ghost fire talent while raising its ability? Wang Ting looked at his attributes panel. Unfortunately, the talent was still dormant. But, He felt that he had found a method. He could find more fire element star cores to feed the little crow. Its talent might awaken one day. The little crow was only an assistant now. But, once it awakened its ghost fire talent, it would be able to actively participate in battles. Just thinking about it made him excited. Hurry and grow up. Your master is so impressive. You mustn't be weak either. Wang Teng expressed his expectations shamelessly. Chapter 273, Intermediate Stage Rune Master Yang City, Haiyu Hotel. The next morning, Wang Teng got up early and prepared to go out. He asked the hotel's attendant for the location of the Rune Society. As he walked along the streets in the morning, Wang Teng recalled the attendant's expression when he asked about the Rune Society. His reaction was interesting. He was shocked before he turned respectful. This kind of respect was different from the respect towards customers. It originated due to a difference in societal status. Wang Teng sighed. It looked like the position of rune masters on the Xingwu continent wasn't low. No wonder all the top universities on Earth had set up a faculty to teach rune studies especially. He wondered about the social statuses of blacksmiths and alchemists. Yang City was a huge city. Even in the early morning, the streets were busy and packed with people. Wang Teng even met a team of guards in armor. They looked domineering. Their armors clanged loudly as they walked, and the passers-by would make way for them immediately. Wang Teng stood at the side of the road and watched them walk away. Then, he followed the attendant's guidance and walked past a few streets. Finally, he reached the Rune Society. In front of him was an enormous and magnificent building. The name of the building was written in light gold on the plaque, giving off a faint glow. Large crowds were moving back and forth in the plaza outside the Rune Society. There were all kinds of races mixed together, including dwarfs, orcs, and humans. Many people wore long gowns with a prominent rune logo at the chest area. Wang Teng guessed that these were the staff of the Rune Society. When he walked through the main doors of the Rune Society, a large lobby welcomed his vision. There weren't many people inside the lobby, so it looked empty. The staff was all busy doing their own things. The people who entered the lobby didn't stop either. They walked in a straight line and disappeared at the end of the corridor. The corridor in the lobby had all kinds of rune patterns carved on its walls. It looked very strange. Wang Teng only glanced at them since his gaze was attracted by the massive number of bubbles floating on the floor. He made the right choice to come to the Rune Society. He was right. There were many attribute bubbles he could pick up. Spirit *10 Rune Knowledge *8 Rune Knowledge *6 Spiritual Realm *4 Spirit *12 Rune Knowledge *10 He picked them up. All the attribute bubbles were pulled over by Wang Teng and entered his body like fish in the sea. There are spirit attributes. Wang Teng was shocked. This was the first time he had picked up spiritual realm attributes. It looked like this Rune Society was filled with hidden dragons. He calculated and realized that he had gained 18 points of spiritual realm and 46 points of spirit in total. Wang Teng's spirit attribute rose tremendously. A huge amount of spirit attributes surged into his mind like a storm, twirling like a bottomless tornado. It took a while to calm down. Spiritual realm, 71, 7-100. As his spiritual attributes increased, Wang Teng's spiritual power also followed suit. His ability rose subsequently too. He also gained 156 points of rune knowledge. This rune knowledge wasn't the basic rune knowledge he had learned in school. Rather, it was much more profound and professional. Wang Teng looked at his attributes panel. He thought that another segment would appear in his knowledge row, but there wasn't one. However, there were still some changes to his attributes panel. There was a new section, secondary job. There were 3 jobs in this secondary job section: Rune Master, Blacksmith, and Force Chef. Blacksmith, 125 1000, Advanced Stage, Force Chef, May 2000, Master, Rune Master, 83 500, Intermediate Stage. At the same time, some introduction appeared in Wang Teng's mind. These secondary jobs were split into a few levels: Beginner Stage, Intermediate Stage, Advanced Stage, Master, and Grandmaster. Could it be that the secondary jobs are segregated into different levels in the Xingwu continent? Do the people on Earth follow the same example? Wang Teng wondered to himself. He noticed that alchemist still hadn't appeared and remained in the knowledge row. Obviously, knowing spiritual herb differentiation didn't make him an alchemist. Wang Teng understood instantly. My rune master level has reached the intermediate stage. I picked up 156 points of rune knowledge just now and jumped from beginner stage to intermediate stage immediately. Including the basic rune knowledge I had, I am at 83 points now. A smile appeared at the corner of Wang Teng's lips. He didn't have to worry anymore. He came here to get the Rune Master qualification certificate. He planned to use it as his way of merging into the Xingwu Continent Society. Wang Teng stood in the lobby with his weapon carrier casket on his back. Keeping in mind his young age, he was extremely eye-catching. A young lady in the Rune Society uniform, a long dress, walked over. She smiled at Wang Teng and asked, "Mister, is this your first time here? Do you need any help?" "Yes, it's indeed my first time. I want to get the Rune Master qualification certificate. I wonder what's the process like?" Wang Teng nodded and replied, "You're a Rune Master?" The lady was slightly stunned when she looked at Wang Teng's young face. "Yes." Wang Teng nodded. "Follow me." The lady was honestly startled. Her attitude became respectful as she raised her hand to lead Wang Teng to the counter. She took out a form and a pen and passed them to Wang Teng. "Please fill in this form. We will arrange the test for you later." Wang Teng filled up the form casually. The lady took the form and glanced at the age row. He was 18 years old. She sighed and exclaimed, "It's rare to see someone so young taking the Rune Master qualification test." Then, she held the form and led Wang Teng down the corridor in the lobby. They stopped in front of a huge door. There were 2 martial warriors standing guard outside the huge door. Wang Teng scanned these 2 people. He sensed that they were at least 2-star soldier level. Yet, they were guarding the door here. "I brought this person to take the exam. Please let him in," the lady said to the 2 martial warriors. "The first round of exams will take place half an hour later. Don't walk around after you enter the room. Just wait in your seat." One of the martial warriors was amazed when he saw Wang Teng. This fellow looked very young, but he wasn't able to see through him at all. Thus, he decided to speak politely. Wang Teng nodded to show that he understood. The martial warrior opened the door to let him in. The young lady was surprised to see the martial warrior's attitudes. However, she didn't say much. She stamped the form and handed it to Wang Teng. "You just have to pass the form to the examiner during the exam." "Okay. Thank you." Wang Teng nodded and entered the room. It was brightly lit. There were many people in the room. Low discussions and laughter were heard occasionally. Most of them were youths around 20 years old. However, Wang Teng saw 2 people around his age. They had elders accompanying them. Chapter 274, Young Man, Be My Disciple. They turned to look at Wang Teng uncontrollably when they noticed someone walking into the room. Another person. He's so young. He can be compared to the young ladies and masters from the elite families. H, you don't know if he can pass the exam. It's too early to compare him with them. The moment Wang Teng stepped in, discussions about him rose immediately. All of them were shocked by his age, but a majority of them remained suspicious. Most young examinees had come here to gain experience. They rarely passed the test. People who were able to pass the Rune Master exam at this age were all extraordinarily talented and outstanding geniuses. At the same time, a massive amount of resources was needed to groom them. The bar was too high for ordinary people. Wang Teng ignored their gossip and walked to a corner, quietly waiting for the exam to start. After some time, no one cared about Wang Teng anymore. They started talking about the young masters and ladies from elite families. From their discussions, Wang Teng knew that the 2 peers with elders accompanying them came from the Rune elite families of Yang City. The young man with an elder beside him came from the Liu family in Yang City. His name was Liu Xinghui. The young lady with a middle-aged man beside her was the genius from the Su family, Su Lingyun. I rely on the system. If these two people are able to pass the exam, besides the advantage of their families, they must be extremely talented. Wang Ting sized up the two youths. Time passed quickly. When the exam was about to start, the examiners from the Rune Society entered the room one by one. There were 3 examiners, 2 humans, and 1 goblin. The goblin was small, and his skin was crumpled. His mouth stuck out, and he had the chin of an ape. 3 advanced stage rune masters are our examiners, the youngsters in the room exclaimed. The 3 examiners walked directly to their seats and sat down. They didn't announce the start of the exam. Instead, they seemed to be waiting for something. Everyone was confused. A few more minutes passed when the door of the room was opened once again. An elder with silver-white hair walked in. He was very old, but you could still see that he must have been a handsome man when he was young. A pair of sharp ears protruded out from his silver hair. Fairy. This elder was a fairy. Wang Ting was dumbstruck. Suddenly, he heard the crowd shouting again. President! President! Wang Ting was shocked. For the people here to call him president, he must be the president of the Yang City Rune Society. Why is the president here? Look at who's behind the president. I think it's his disciple, Su Lingxian. Is the president asking Su Lingxian to take the exam today? No way. Su Lingxian is only 16 years old. Since Su Lingxian is able to become the president's disciple, this is proof that she's much more talented than Su Lingyun. If it's her, it might be possible. Wang Ting's expression turned weird. This piece of news was a little mind-blowing. He couldn't help but look at the 2 ladies. Su Lingyun, Su Lingxian. Are they both from the Su family? Wang Ting felt puzzled. Their names were similar, along with their looks. This was fun. One was an extremely talented lady who became the disciple of the president of the Rune Society. The other was talented too, but she wasn't accepted. Their background was the same, but their fate was different. Fate could be very irritating sometimes. At this moment, Wang Ting could see jealousy on Su Lingyun's face. After the president of the Rune Society came, he nodded at the 3 examiners. Then, they announced the start of the exam. A human examiner stood up and said, "The exam is straightforward. We've chosen 10 1-star rune arrays. You have to create at least 3 arrays to pass the exam. The more arrays you create, the higher your points." After the Rune Master job appeared, Wang Ting knew that there were 1 to 9-star rune arrays. A beginner stage Rune Master was able to create at least 3 1-star rune arrays. Everyone stood in their position and looked at the 10 1-star rune arrays shown on the screen on the wall. Some people frowned while others smiled brightly. Then, they picked up the rune pen on the table and started creating their rune arrays. Wang Ting glanced at the names without any changes in his expression. He started creating the arrays immediately. He was an intermediate stage rune master now. 1-star rune arrays posed no challenge to him. Within half an hour, he created all 10 1-star rune arrays on the metal board on his exam table. Then, he raised his hand. Everyone's gazes were attracted to him. "You're done." The 3 examiners frowned. "Yes," Wang Ting replied calmly. Even the president of the Rune Society glanced at Wang Ting. "He's so fast. Is he here to create trouble?" Everyone was confused and in disbelief. The 3 talented youths, Liu Xinghui, Su Lingyun, and Su Lingxian, looked at Wang Ting simultaneously. This young man around their age had actually completed his arrays already. The 3 examiners' faces turned black. But, they didn't say anything. They exchanged glances with one another and walked to Wang Ting's seat. A set of 10 perfect rune arrays appeared in front of their eyes. The 3 of them were shocked. They pounced on Wang Ting's exam table in unplanned unison and observed the rune arrays on it carefully. Especially the goblin examiner. He was too short, so he could only climb onto the table. He took out a magnifying glass and laid on the table to observe the arrays. His posture looked a little funny. Perfect. Flawless. The 3 examiners were bewildered. They raised their heads and looked at Wang Ting. The astonishment in their eyes remained there for a long time. No way. Everyone was flabbergasted when they heard this. The president of the Rune Society walked over at this moment. "President, take a look at this. The 10 one-star rune arrays created by this young man are perfect," the 3 examiners said hurriedly. The president, Gorlin, got even more curious. This young man had managed to get such high praises from these rune masters. He strode over and scrutinized the arrays for a long time. In the end, he was also amazed. He sized up Wang Ting and smiled. He asked abruptly, "Young man, why don't you be my disciple?" Everyone collapsed in shock. "President, you're not going by the books." Su Lingxian looked at her master and Wang Ting in confusion. Was she going to have a senior brother? Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun didn't seem to be in a good mood. The other people were envious too. This was the president of the Rune Society. All these times, did you know how many people wanted to be his disciple but failed? The president had only accepted Su Lingxian as his disciple, but today, he laid his eyes on this young man he just knew and even asked him to be his disciple. Wang Ting was dumbstruck. He didn't know if he should laugh or cry. "I was too rash. Don't reject me now. We can talk again after the exam," Gorlin said. Then, he said to the 3 examiners, "You can give him his score first." The 3 examiners nodded. There was no need to discuss. They gave full marks to Wang Ting. Chapter 275, Treatment of a Rune Master. After Wang Ting finished his exam, another half an hour passed. Su Lingxian completed the 10 one-star rune arrays. However, her completion rate wasn't as high as Wang Ting's. There were flaws in her array, but it was already awe-inspiring for a 16-year-old young lady to reach this stage. President Gorlin was delighted with his disciple's performance. The 3 examiners gave her a final score of 83 points. It should be a happy matter, but Su Lingxian couldn't smile at all. She came beside Gorlin and asked, "Master, how much did he score?" Gorlin knew who his disciple was referring to. He could also tell that she was depressed. He smiled and said, "In this world, there will always be extremely talented people. You can compare yourself to him, but you can't lose your composure. Make these outstanding people your goals, and you will definitely have great achievements in the future." Su Lingxian was stunned for a moment. She seemed enlightened as she nodded seriously and said, "I understand, Master." "All right, why do you have to be so serious?" Gorlin laughed. "Haha, Master, you spoke so sternly, so I have to be serious too." Su Lingxian resumed her cheeky manner. She smiled and continued, "Oh right, you haven't told me how much he scored." The 3 examiners gave him full marks. Gorlin noticed that she wasn't dejected anymore, so he told her Wang Ting's result. Full marks. Although Su Lingxian had prepared herself mentally, she was still shocked by the number. Some people had indeed scored full marks in the past, but that was only a handful. It was too difficult to create a flawless array. Not only did you need hard work, but you also needed extremely high talent. No wonder her master asked her to maintain her composure. She might die from frustration if she compared herself to him. Su Lingxian shook her head. She suddenly thought of something and asked, "Master, are you really going to take him as your disciple? Will I be a senior sister? It will feel great to have such a powerful junior brother." "Seriously? Even if I take him in, you will be his junior sister. He's older than you." Gorlin burst out laughing. He shook his head and said, "I do want to take him in. He's gifted, so it's a pity if I miss him. But he seems to have some concerns. I will need to have a chat with him after the exam." "Ha ha ha, Master, so you have people you can't handle too." Su Lingxian laughed at her master's plight. "You little fellow." Gorlin also laughed out loud. "All the best. Master, you can do it." Su Lingxian waved her fist playfully as she cheered for her master. Gorlin couldn't help but roll his eyes. Time flew. The 2-hour exam ended quickly. Some people panted and sighed, while others furrowed their brows deeply. Some were relieved. The 3 examiners came down from their seats to mark the examinees' efforts. It wasn't hard for advanced stage rune masters to evaluate 1-star rune arrays. They could tell at one glance where the mistakes and flaws were before giving the final score. Very soon, everyone's score was out. There were more than 20 participants, but only 6 people passed. Some people couldn't even create 3 one-star rune arrays. Naturally, they failed. Some managed to carve all 10 one-star rune arrays, but there were fatal flaws in their work. They failed their exam too. Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun were among the 6 who passed the exam. Their results weren't low. One scored 45 while the other scored 50. In this exam, the passing mark wasn't 60. There were 10 one-star rune arrays in total. If you carved one correct one-star rune array, you would get 10 points. Hence, you would only need 30 points to pass the exam. Based on Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun's score, they had completed at least 4 to 5 one-star rune arrays. It was already outstanding. After all, they were very young. However, in front of Su Lingxian, their results paled in comparison, much less Wang Ting. Su Lingyun scored 83 while the fellow from God knows where scored full marks. Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun were flabbergasted when they heard Wang Ting and Su Lingyun's score. Their expressions turned a little ugly. They would have been satisfied with their scores if Su Lingxian and Wang Ting weren't present. But, now, it was incomparable. They were famous talents in Yang City, yet they were thrown to the sidelines. They didn't have the face to call themselves geniuses anymore. The other examinees were talking among themselves softly. They were thunderstruck. That young man scored full marks. I really want to see how well he drew his rune arrays. The 3 examiners and the president all said that this rune arrays were perfect. They gave such a high score, so it must be flawless. Su Lingxian scored very well too. She's only 16 years old. It's very impressive. Compared to the 2 of them, Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun are nothing. Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun heard these discussions. Their faces were black, and their gazes were filled with envy. As the exam came to an end, a few staff from the Rune Society walked in with trays on their palms. There were black gowns placed on the trays. One of the examiners stood up and smiled. Everyone, congratulations on becoming beginner stage rune masters. In the future, you will be a member of the Rune Society, and you can enjoy the special privileges given by the society. You can take missions and exchange items on our mission and exchange platforms. We will be giving you our special internal long gown. There are runes carved by our advanced stage rune masters on these gowns. It has defensive ability, repels dust, is waterproof, and protects you from poison. The cost price of each gown is 1,000 force stones at least. It isn't just a symbol of your status, it's a symbol of honor. I hope that you will treasure it. Everyone stared at the long gowns held by the staff with an intense gaze. The people who didn't pass the exam were jealous. The staff went forward and passed the long gowns to the examinees who had passed the beginner stage runemaster exam. Everyone held onto the gowns with delight. Some even took off their coats and changed into this exquisite runemaster black gown right away. Before becoming runemasters, they lived in impoverished circumstances. Now, after changing into the black gown, they seemed to have transformed into a different person. They started exuding the noble aura of a runemaster. The tailor makes the man, this was exactly what it meant. At this moment, Gorlin walked over with Su Lingxian and smiled as he said, "Young man, shall we find a place to talk?" I want to take the intermediate stage runemaster exam first," Wang Teng replied. Gorlin was shocked. The others were dumbfounded too. Chapter 276. Pass the intermediate stage runemaster exam. You want to take part in the intermediate stage runemaster exam? Gorlin and the 3 examiners stared at Wang Ting in bewilderment. Su Lingxian, who was standing behind Gorlin, also stared at Wang Ting with wide eyes. Her jaws dropped slightly. She thought that she had heard wrong. In the room, everyone's gaze was focused on Wang Ting. They were already amazed when he aced the beginner stage runemaster exam with full marks. They were stunned by his talent. Yet, he still wanted to take the intermediate stage runemaster exam. How should they explain his talent now? Everyone turned speechless in unplanned unison. There was pin-drop silence in the exam room for a moment. This brat. Liu Xinghui looked at Wang Ting, who had become the spotlight in the room. His eyes were burning with the flames of jealousy. In the past, this treatment belonged to him. That guy had snatched it away from him. On the other side, Su Lingyun wasn't envious of Wang Teng. Her point of conflict was Su Lingxian. She looked at Wang Ting's angular face, and a glint flashed past her eyes. If he passed the intermediate stage runemaster exam, where did this fellow come from, though? If he really passed the intermediate stage runemaster exam, he would be a devil in human skin. Everyone regained their senses and looked at Wang Ting as though he was a monster. They smiled bitterly. Don't underestimate the intermediate stage runemaster exam. Not only do you need to create 2-star rune arrays, but you must also possess 2-star force and mortal realm spiritual power, Su Lingxian couldn't help but reminded him. 2-star force and mortal realm spiritual power. Wang Teng glanced at the young lady. 2-star force was what the people on the Xingwu continent called it. It meant 2-star soldier level. As for the mortal realm, that was the stage before the spiritual realm. Typically, a person's spiritual power stopped at the mortal realm. However, Wang Ting had already reached the spiritual realm, one step higher. He had ticked all the boxes for his advancement. If Su Lingxian knew his real power, what would she think? If I can, I still want to try, Wang Ting said. Gorlin regained his composure and gave Wang Ting a meaningful look. He said, "Are you sure you want to take the intermediate stage runemaster exam?" "Yes." Wang Ting nodded. The 3 examiners walked over. Their expressions turned serious when they heard that Wang Ting still wanted to take the exam. "Young man, this isn't a joke," the goblin examiner said. If Wang Ting passed the intermediate stage runemaster exam at this age, they could only describe his talent as monstrous. In the entire rune industry of the empire, no one as impressive as him had appeared in the last few hundred years. You don't have to be so serious. It's just an exam. There are intermediate stage runemaster exams in the Rune Society every day, right? There must be many people taking part in it. Adding me inside won't make a difference. If it's not possible, forget it. Wang Ting felt speechless by their nagging. Of course you can, why can't you? Hurry up and prepare for the exam, Gorlin said immediately. If they stopped Wang Ting only to realize that he was indeed an intermediate stage runemaster, it would be a massive loss for the Yang City Rune Society. There were rune societies in all the cities in the empire. Although they came from the same background, competition still existed between them. If an unprecedented talent appeared in Yang City, it would only spell more benefits for them. The 3 examiners reacted quickly. Just like what Wang Ting said, it was merely an exam. Many people took the exam every day, so what difference would Wang Ting make? His results would explain everything. The 3 examiners personally brought Wang Ting to another room with Gorlin. The words intermediate stage runemaster exam were written on the door of the room. There were even fewer people in the intermediate stage runemaster's exam hall. You could count them with your fingers. When the examiner inside saw Gorlin walking in with Wang Teng, he was surprised. He got up and said, "President, why are you here?" "I brought someone to take part in the intermediate stage runemaster exam," Gorlin replied. "Oh, who is it? Why do you have to send him over personally?" There were 3 examiners for the intermediate stage runemaster exam too. They were startled when they heard Gorlin's reply. They knew that Gorlin's disciple, Su Lingxian, was at most a beginner stage runemaster. They were also familiar with her, so they noticed that she wasn't present. Instead, they saw Wang Ting, who was standing behind Gorlin. They were confused. "It's him." Gorlin tilted his body to reveal Wang Ting. He glanced around him and said, "Has your exam started? Has joining the intermediate stage runemaster exam at such a young age?" Astonishment filled up their eyes as they exchanged glances with one another. They nodded and said, "Yes, it hadn't started yet." "Let him participate then," Gorlin said without explaining Wang Teng's identity. "Okay." The 3 examiners didn't probe further. They asked the staff to prepare another exam table. The intermediate stage runemaster exam was about to start. "I hope you don't disappoint me." Gorlin looked at Wang Ting as he walked up to his exam table. His eyes shimmered as he muttered to himself. Outside the exam room of the intermediate stage runemaster exam, Liu Xinghui and Su Lingyun hadn't left yet. They gathered in the corridor and waited for Wang Teng's result. Su Lingxian was present too. She stared intently at the closed door and wondered to herself. Seriously, why didn't Master bring me along? Liu Xinghui looked at Su Lingxian, who was alone at the side. His eyes lit up, and he inched towards her. He pretended to be intimate and called out to her, "Lingxian, do you think that fellow will pass the exam?" Su Lingxian frowned secretly. She moved half a step away and said, "I don't know. Let's just see the result. I think that he won't. That fellow probably wants to attract the president's attention." Liu Xinghui didn't notice Su Lingxian's actions. He continued talking to himself. "Even Master isn't sure. I don't know anything." Su Lingxian scoffed. Liu Xinghui's expression froze. "Mph, how does it feel to get the cold shoulder?" Su Lingyun sneered from the side. "Mph." Liu Xinghui's face turned red. He snorted and kept quiet. Su Lingxian frowned. Su Lingyun had a sharp tongue. However, she couldn't do anything to her cousin. Ever since Gorlin took her in as his disciple, Su Lingyun started hating her. Time passed slowly. Suddenly, the door opened, and Gorlin and the 3 examiners walked out. "Master, what's the result?" Su Lingxian ran forward hurriedly and pulled Gorlin's hand as she asked. Gorlin sighed. "He didn't pass." Wang Teng's face appeared in Su Lingxian's mind. She looked a little disappointed. Liu Xinghui couldn't help but heave a sigh of relief. On the other hand, Su Lingyun was dismayed. Her gaze turned indifferent again. "No, he passed." Just sighing over his astonishing talent, Gorlin lamented. Su Lingxian was shocked. She rolled her eyes at him uncontrollably. Liu Xinghui staggered. Su Lingyun raised her head abruptly. A sly glint flashed in her eyes. Chapter 277, Divine Spirit Master. They all had different expressions when they heard that Wang Teng had passed his exam. However, their astonishment was the same. Wang Teng came out a bit slower than Gorlin. He was picking up the attribute bubbles dropped by the intermediate stage runemasters in the room before he came out. Runemaster 106-500, intermediate stage, he remained indifferent when he saw everyone's expression. He had seen too many similar expressions before and was used to it. Thus, he remained calm. But, to Gorlin, his attitude was commendable. At this age, with such impressive talent, he was still able to remain undisturbed by favor and flattery. How many young people could do this? Some beginner-stage runemasters who hadn't left nodded at Wang Teng and came to greet him. They wanted to leave an impression on his memory. After all, this amazing talent might become a renowned master in the future. There was no harm in knowing him beforehand. Su Lingyun came forward and said with a smile, "Hi, I'm Su Lingyun, the eldest daughter of the Su family. Never slap a person who smiles." Wang Teng couldn't reject her, so he nodded and replied, "I'm Wang Teng. You are not a local, right? Let me bring you around when you're free," Su Lingyun said. Liu Xinghui snorted when he saw everyone fawning over Wang Teng. He turned around and left. "The exam has ended. If there's nothing, you can leave." Gorlin waved his hands at everyone in the corridor. Then, he turned and smiled at Wang Teng. "Now, we can talk. President, why must you keep a nobody like me here?" Wang Teng said with a bitter smile. "You must be secretly delighted. Many people will give anything to get invited by my master," Su Lingxian said angrily. Gorlin noticed Wang Teng's consideration, so he waved his hands casually and said, "Don't worry. I honestly just want to talk to you. I won't force you to do anything." "All right." Since he had already expressed his stance, Wang Teng couldn't reject him anymore. He nodded. Everyone was envious when they watched Wang Teng leaving with Gorlin. Then, they started chatting about the things they had experienced today as they dispersed. They felt honored to be able to witness the rise of a legend. Wang Teng followed Gorlin deep inside the Rune Society. There were corridors everywhere. After taking many turns, they finally walked out of a door. A small garden laid in front of them. The air smelled pleasant and fresh, and there were all kinds of strange creatures popping out from the bushes. They weren't scared of Gorlin and Su Lingxian, but when they saw Wang Teng, they sized him up with wide eyes. Wang Teng looked at this bunch of translucent creatures jumping around the bushes. They were like jelly. He exclaimed in surprise, "This is slime? Slime? What's that?" Su Lingxian glanced at Wang Teng curiously. She said, "They are called soft muddy babies, soft muddy babies." The corners of Wang Teng's lips twitched. He kept repeating this name. It was pretty descriptive. "This name is not bad, right?" Su Lingxian chuckled. "My master has been studying these little fellows recently, so he caught a bunch of them and raised them at home. Not bad." Wang Ting had a strange expression. Then, he joked and said, "Master Gorlin, aren't you a rune master? Why are you studying slime? Do you want to be a biologist instead?" "Ha ha ha, Wang Teng, I can call you Wang Teng, right?" Gorlin laughed. After receiving Wang Teng's agreement, he continued, "The runes we have come from the research of star beasts. Life is the most magical presence in this world. Every single life contains huge secrets. This soft muddy baby might be the lowest form of life, but it comes in many different forms. It's able to embrace any force elements like a human. It's a mysterious creature. In researching their shape-shifting ability, I really want to know what kind of life pattern allows it to shift its shape so casually. I might even create a new rune." Shape-shifting. Wang Ting's gaze lit up. He instantly thought of many links and implications. When he looked at the slime again, oh, wait, it was called soft muddy baby, his gaze turned dangerous. "Master, you are just bored. Many elders tried to study this creature, but they failed. It has been deemed impossible. Why are you so stubborn?" Su Lingxian rolled her eyes. "Haha, this is my dream as a child. I'm getting old, so if I don't do it now, it will be too late." Gorlin smiled and replied. He didn't mind her comment. There was a small wooden house in the garden. Gorlin brought Wang Ting to a quiet study room in the wooden house. Su Lingxian poured a cup of dark green drink for Wang Ting. Gorlin smiled and explained, "This is a special fruit wine made by the fairies. Have a taste." Wang Ting held the wooden cup and smelled the wine. A refreshing fragrance wafted into his nose. It was so pleasant. He couldn't help but take a small sip. "This is delicious. You're not from the Xingwu continent." Gorlin suddenly opened his mouth at this moment. Fart. Wang Teng was caught off guard. He spat out the mouth of fruit wine he had just swallowed. It landed squarely on Gorlin's face. Su Lingxian was startled. It was partly because of what Gorlin said and partly because Wang Teng had spat wine on Gorlin's face. The three of them were stunned, and there was a moment of dead silence. The atmosphere was extremely awkward. Cough. Gorlin regained his senses first and coughed awkwardly. He took out his handkerchief and wiped his face calmly. Su Lingxian held back her laughter and glared at Wang Teng. Wang Teng pretended as if nothing had happened and he didn't see anything. He replied calmly, "President Gorlin, I don't understand what you're saying. Didn't your elder tell you that you won't be able to hide your spiritual mark in front of a warrior with strong spiritual power? Don't worry. Since I said it, I won't harm you. Do you think that someone as strong as me will bother talking to you?" Gorlin said. Wang Teng sighed in his heart. He replied, "President, how do you know? Even if you have strong spiritual power, you can only notice the difference in my spiritual mark when I activate my spiritual power. I don't think I used my spiritual power in front of you. When you entered the Rune Society, you used your spiritual power to scan the lobby once. I noticed you at that time. At the start, I didn't place much attention on you. Many people from your world come here since there's trade between the two worlds. It isn't strange for a person from Earth to appear in my Rune Society. However, when I coincidentally met you taking the Rune Master exams, I understood what you wanted to do," Gorlin replied slowly. "Spiritual power." Su Lingxian turned her head violently to look at Wang Teng as she listened to their conversation. This fellow actually possessed spiritual power. What? Right at the start? Wang Teng was shocked at something else. When he observed the lobby at that time, he didn't detect any person with strong spiritual power. That was why he dared to pick up the attribute bubbles with his spiritual power. He was certain that President Gorlin wasn't there, but he still managed to detect his presence. How frightening was his spiritual power? The next moment, he smiled bitterly. He was too careless. "President, why are you telling me this?" he asked. "So that you can become my disciple." Gorlin smiled. He looked like a sly old fox. Wang Teng looked at him in a daze. Su Lingxian was bewildered too. However, she remembered her master's method of doing things and felt that it was understandable. He might appear to be of noble character and high prestige and act kind and amiable in front of everyone, but in reality, his heart was black. After all, he was an old monster that had lived for a few hundred years. "What do you think? Young man, if you acknowledge me as your master, I will keep your secret for you. I will even teach you how to hide your spiritual mark," Gorlin sniggered. "Why?" Wang Teng asked sternly. Gorlin seemed to know what he was referring to. He suddenly retracted his smile and looked at him intently. "The world is different. Can you be more specific?" Wang Teng asked. "You will have to figure it out yourself." Gorlin couldn't keep his mysterious aura for more than 3 seconds. He immediately started smiling slyly again. Wang Teng felt like vomiting blood. Why does everyone like to leave him hanging? It feels so uncomfortable to know half of what's happening. "But I already have a master," he said. "A rune master?" Gorlin asked. "No. She teaches me martial arts," Wang Teng replied. "That won't be a problem then. It isn't conflicting. Even if your martial arts master knows, she won't mind," Gorlin said. "All right, master." Wang Teng forsook his dignity and greeted Gorlin. "Very good." Gorlin stroked his white beard and nodded in satisfaction. He pointed at Su Lingxian and said, "She will be your junior sister in the future. Remember to take care of her." Su Lingxian was agitated as if someone had rubbed her the wrong way. "Why? I'm the senior sister here. You're younger and weaker than him," Gorlin smiled as he replied to her. "Shouldn't seniority be based on the time you enter the clan?" Su Lingxian expressed her unhappiness. How about this? If you can make Wang Ting call you senior sister, you will be his senior sister." Gorlin immediately threw this problem to Wang Ting. "Junior sister, nice to meet you. Please take care of me in the future." Wang Ting sniggered in his heart. There was no way he was going to call this lady, who was younger than him, his senior. "Call me senior sister." Su Lingxian was furious. "Junior sister. Call senior sister. Junior sister. All right. You can quarrel over your seniority in the future. Let's talk business now." Gorlin hurriedly stopped the two of them. He said to Wang Ting, "Let's talk about your spiritual power now. How much do you understand your spiritual power?" Wang Ting's interest was instantly hooked. His expression was grave as he shook his head. "I don't understand much." Gorlin choked on his words. He took a few breaths before continuing. "What a waste. You're fortunate that you met me. Simply put, spiritual kinesis is the objectification of your spiritual power. Very few people are able to breed spiritual kinesis. You need to be extremely gifted and lucky. You are undoubtedly very lucky. Spiritual kinesis is related to a mysterious and ancient job, Divine Spirit Master." Divine Spirit Master? Wang Ting felt that this was his lucky moment, his time to shine. He asked hurriedly, "What is a Divine Spirit Master?" The moment he finished speaking, a wave of spiritual kinesis emerged from Gorlin's body. The fire force around them surged towards him and congregated into a giant fire serpent in front of him. It lowered its head to look at Wang Ting. "This is a Divine Spirit Master." Chapter 278, Two Foodies What the F***K. These 3 words hovered in his mouth for a while before he spurted them out. The giant fire serpent looked alive. Every single one of its scales seemed exceptionally real. Its huge body slid around Gorlin and protected him in the middle. The serpent's head rose into the air and looked down at Wang Ting. It stuck out its tongue softly. Anyone who saw this scene for the first time would be blown away. This was the first time Su Lingxian saw Gorlin displaying his ability too. Her jaws dropped as she stared at the serpent dumbfounded. What is F***K? Gorlin frowned and asked. Cough. Wang Ting started coughing awkwardly. He smiled in embarrassment and said, Master, is this the ability of a divine spirit master? Gorlin didn't probe further. He nodded and replied, that's right. A divine spirit master uses his spiritual kineses as his hands to control the force around him to work for him. He can also wield all sorts of weapons and launch powerful attacks. While explaining, he raised his hand. A thick book floated down from the bookcase behind him and landed on his palm. I know how to wield weapons. I have been doing that for a long time. However, controlling the force around me. I attempted it a few times but failed. I can only control the force in my body, Wang Ting said. If everyone knows how to control the force around them, then the divine spirit masters won't be so secretive anymore. Gorlin smiled. He didn't beat around the bush and went straight to the point. You must have a medium if you want to control the force around you. This medium is the legacy of the divine spirit masters. Wang Ting's eyes lit up. He was starting to get excited. Gorlin was undoubtedly a divine spirit master. It would be a massive gain if he could get the legacy of the divine spirit masters from him. Haha, do you want to learn? Gorlin couldn't help but laugh when he saw Wang Ting's expression. Of course. Wang Ting nodded without hesitation. Don't worry. Since you accepted me as your master, I will pass my legacy to you, Gorlin said. Wang Ting took a deep breath. Thank you. He could imagine how precious the legacy of divine spirit masters was. Yet, Gorlin decided to pass it to him, a disciple who had just joined him. Also, he was from Earth, not a part of the Xingwu continent. Those who were not one's kin were sure to be of a different heart. Yet, Gorlin ignored this dilemma altogether. This was a display of his magnanimity. Master, what about me? What about me? Su Lingxian didn't think that much. When she saw the magic of a divine spirit master, she couldn't control her excitement anymore. She pulled Gorlin's arm and started shaking him. Stop shaking, stop shaking. If you continue shaking, my bones will get dislodged. Gorlin said helplessly, I want to teach you, but you haven't awakened your spiritual power yet. You won't be able to learn it even if I teach you. Ah, I'm a talented young beauty. Why can't I learn? Su Lingxian was dejected. Then, she thought of something and turned hopeful. Master, do you have a way to let me awaken my spiritual power? Stop thinking of bad ideas. If it were so easy to awaken one's spiritual power, we would have lots of divine spirit masters. Gorlin shook his head. Su Lingxian became depressed again. Gorlin felt his head hurting as he looked at her. He quickly looked at Wang Ting to ask him to comfort her. However, this was the first day he knew Su Lingxian. He didn't understand her at all, so he didn't know how to comfort her. He could only look at the floor to express his helplessness. Gorlin could only do it himself. He said softly, Lingxian, this is probably Wang Teng's first time in Yang City. He's not familiar with the city, so why don't you bring him around? I heard that a new bakery has opened along Anqin Street. Their pastries are very special, and they are delicious. Don't you want to try? Su Lingxian's eyes lit up. However, she still appeared a little unwilling. She hesitated for a moment before agreeing reluctantly. Since Master asked, I will bring Junior Wang Teng around the city. Sigh, I don't have a choice since I'm his senior sister. Wang Ting saw the young lady's throat moving up and down. It was quite obvious. She seemed to be swallowing her saliva. She was a foodie. He wanted to correct the way she addressed him, but since she had just suffered a huge blow, he decided not to argue about seniority with her for now. Gorlin stood in the garden and watched them walk away. He smiled and shook his head. Then, he laid on the rocking chair at the side and read a book as he rocked slowly. Sunlight shone on his white beard, and the special creatures shuttled back and forth through the bushes. The leaves were rustling, as if playing a soothing tune. Some unknown flower fairies danced around the flowers. They would land on Gorlin's head occasionally. The scene was quiet and peaceful. Su Lingxian brought Wang Ting to the streets. Although this young lady kept staring at the street food, she was still faithful in her duties. Whenever she met a symbolic building, she would explain its significance to Wang Ting. Of course, there were remunerations in order. Senior brother, I'm hungry. Can you buy a fried crispy pastry for me? Su Lingxian touched her stomach and looked at him righteously. Her intention was, I'm hungry because I brought you out for a walk. Where's your conscience if you don't buy food for me? It didn't matter if this was really her intention. The most important thing was, her saliva was about to drip down from the corner of her lips. Wipe your saliva quickly. Don't you find it embarrassing? Wang Ting rolled his eyes. He went to buy 2 fried crispy pastries. Mind you, it did look quite delicious. Su Lingxian blushed as she sucked her saliva back. Her actions were extremely smooth. Wang Ting bought the pastries and passed one to Su Lingxian. At the same time, he didn't forget to tease her. Do you admit that I'm your senior brother now? Did I say that? You must have heard wrong. Su Lingxian ignored Wang Ting the moment she got her food. She denied what she said and started eating her fried pastry happily. She chewed furiously with her little mouth, and her cheeks were puffed up. She made the food look appetizing. Hey, you little brat. Wang Ting felt speechless. After that, whenever they saw something delicious, Su Lingxian would stop in her tracks and look at Wang Ting. 1 hour later. Wang Ting glanced at Su Lingxian's flat stomach. He sighed. You are small, but you eat well. Su Lingxian glanced sideways at Wang Ting and sniggered. You're not bad either. Cough, I practice martial arts. It's normal for me to eat more. Wang Ting coughed and replied to her calmly. HMPH, men, Su Lingxian sneered. At the same time, in the restaurant to their left, Liu Xinghui and a few young men were laughing and chatting happily around a table beside the window. They were toasting each other, and the atmosphere was lively. Hey, ISNT, that's Su Lingxian from the Su family, one of the young men exclaimed in surprise. Everyone turned and looked in the direction he was staring at. It looks like Su Lingxian. Who is the person beside her? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.